welcome all esteemed guests, distinguished speakers, corporate delegates, respected faculty members, and my dear friends to the 11th National Marketing Conclave of KIIT School of Management, the flagship of KIIT, deemed to be university and institute of eminence in India. Marketing has become more dynamic than ever after the pandemic had hit the businesses. To help the students understand the strategic moves that are important and to keep up with this scenario, the theme of the conclave this year is Marketing at New Normal. Today's conclave is being virtually hosted by KIIT School of Management, KIIT deemed to be university. KIIT deemed to be university has been ranked #1 among self-financing institutions of the country in the Atal ranking of institutions on innovation achievement 2020 by the Ministry of HRD, Government of India. It is amongst the top 20 institutions in India to have received the Institution of Eminence status by MHRD, Government of India. KIIT, deemed to be university, has been declared winner in the category Workplace of the Year in Times Higher Education Awards Asia 2020. Apart from this, KIIT has made an announcement to provide free education to the children of COVID-19 deceased in Orissa. KIIT, along with its sister university, Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences, KISS, world's first exclusive, fully free tribal university for 50,000 tribal children, was founded by Professor Dr. Achyuta Samanta, Member of Parliament, Lok Sabha, a visionary social architect and philanthropist, one of the greatest educational leaders of India. He has single-handedly ushered in an educational and social revolution on the strength of his ethical values. He has set up KISS University, world's first exclusive, fully free tribal university, and KIIT, deemed to be university, an institute of eminence in India with the student strength of 30,000 from across 59 countries. For his efforts, he has been recognized with 41 honoris causa doctorate awards from across the globe, Gandhi Mandela Peace Prize, Gusi Peace Prize, and over 50 national and international and over 200 state honors and accolades. KIIT School of Management has 27 years of glorious academic excellence, providing industry-focused management education. Its 32nd rank in the National Institutional Ranking Framework, Ministry of HRD, and Best B School of Orissa Award by the Times of India Group is the testimony to its commitment to academic excellence. Spread over an area of 35 acres, the institution houses more than 1,000 students across 3 courses, BBA, MBA, and doctoral programs in management. For setting the context of the conclave, we have with us Professor S.K. Mahapatra, Director, KIIT School of Management. Dr. Mahapatra has led leadership positions for over a decade in renowned corporate groups in India, like Tata, Bajaj, and Jindal, including Navratna PSU, Steel Authority of India, and multinational POSCO. He is an alumnus of Delhi University and MDI Gurgaon and holds a doctorate from Utkal University. He is widely acknowledged as a HR thought leader, strategist, and a turnaround specialist. He was felicitated at the Silver Jubilee of the World HRD Congress as one of the most influential HR leaders in 2017. After taking over institutional leadership in NCR, he received the Rashtriya Shiksha Gaurav Puraskar in 2018 from Center of Education Growth and Research, and Visionary Leader of the Year for 2019 from Integrated Chambers of Commerce and Industry, New Delhi. Sir, I request you to set the context of the conclave.
Esteemed Madam Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Sasmita Samanta, esteemed Mr. Asim Soni, keynote speaker of the Marketing Conclave, respected Registrar Sri Gyanarajan Mahanti, Professor Gyanarajan Mahanti, who is present here today, our Dean, Professor S.N. Mishra, distinguished panelists and workshop speakers, senior colleagues present here, esteemed guests, faculty colleagues, and my dear students. Welcome to the 11th National Conclave of our marketing area on behalf of our esteemed, most honorable founder, Dr. Achyuta Samanta, and KIIT School of Management and KIIT University. As you all know, KIIT School of Management organizes many events around the year, bringing in hundreds of thought leaders from the corporate world to the campus to share their wisdom through various programs. We have programs like Confident, which is a corporate mentoring program. Every 10 students of our institute has a corporate mentor guiding them for the 2 years journey they have at KIIT School of Management. We have a co-educate program in which corporate leaders come as visiting corporate faculty to share their insights, practical insights with our students in the classroom. Besides, we have the conclaves, which are thematic. Today we have the marketing conclave. Tomorrow we are going to have a finance conclave. And the next Sunday we are going to have a conclave on business analytics. We already have held our HR Konclave in a mega scale, bringing international speakers in the month of August 2020. The point what I am trying to say is KIIT University and KIIT School of Management are different. The pandemic has not deterred our spirit, rather has emboldened us to do things larger and much better than we were able to do in the physical environment. Armed with this knowledge, when the pandemic gets over and we come back to the physical setting, perhaps the world is going to be in a hybrid mode. I think we'll be able to do our engagement with corporates in a much larger scale after the lockdown phase is over. I have a task in hand to set a context for this conclave. Everybody knows that the world is waiting for a new normal, the rules of which have already been set over the last 10 months. The contemporary management literature reflects some major trends, but today the galaxy of 20 corporate leaders whom we have called to share their wisdom and insight, they'll be throwing more light on these areas, but I would like to just mention about some mega trends that we notice in marketing area. First, there is a fundamental shift in the customer's journey. The way the customer used to think, the way he used to select, the way he used to buy, everything has undergone a change, and understanding of that customer mind has become an issue. The market has probably started demanding innovations much faster than before. You know, data analytics, the analysis of market data had already come during last 20 years into understanding the customer and planning the logistics. But probably now the data in shorter cycles are being analyzed. So there is a change in the data analysis system, moving from longer cycle to shorter cycles. There is also a new dimension of customization of products, services, and solutions, which many pundits are calling personalization and localization. And finally, I see there is a purpose now driving marketing. Everything people do, buy, sell, everywhere they are looking for some social good, some goodness in the society. So these are some of the things which I have observed. I'm sure there are many more insights, much deeper insights that will come over the sessions throughout the day that we have, starting with the keynote session. I am no expert in the domain, so I will not like to stand in between the erudite authorities on the subject and my dear students and colleagues. I thank all of you for joining the conclave, and I wish at the end of the day, all of us will feel richly rewarded. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak at the beginning of the conference and welcome you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for introducing the conclave to the audience. Our first speaker is Professor Dr. Shashmita Samanta, Pro Vice Chancellor, KIIT deemed to be University. She has held leadership roles at KIIT in various fields, varying from human resource management, talent acquisition, general administration, to institute governance and competency management. Dr. Shashmita Samanta has a PhD in human resource management. Dr. Samanta is an academic leader having experience in diverse fields of teaching, research, leadership, and consulting. She has authored various books and more than 20 papers, both in national and international peer-reviewed journals. Recently, Dr. Shashmita Samanta has won the Women Empowerment Entrepreneur Award 2020 by URS Asia 1 magazine. Ma'am, I request you to address the gathering.
Very good morning to one and all present in this conclave. Our respected Director of School of Management, Professor Mahapatra, respected Dean of School of Management, Professor Mr. Most Honorable Speaker of the day, Mr. Asim Soni, Chief Executive Officer and Board Member of Modern Food, our respected Registrar, Professor Ganaranjan Mohanty, and all the esteemed faculty members, the students, participants, delegates, speakers present in this conclave. Whatever knowledge I am having in the field of business, teaching since last so many years and being involved in leadership position in academics since last 25 years, I have understood that today's topic, whatever has been fixed, that marketing at new normal is not very new to the field of marketing or to the field of business. The new normal is set in the field of business with the change of politics, with the change of economy, and with change of different environmental factors and human factors. Today we all are, whatever we are discussing since last 8 months, that yes, the involvement of technology was there, but it was pushed because of this pandemic. The change was being observed in the field of business, in the field of management and social system. But because of this pandemic, this change has become too fast, or I can say that some changes have become very enforcing on us. So because of that, we are discussing on different aspects of new normal. And being a person from HR, I'd like to say that today, whenever we talk about marketing, or whenever we are talking about marketing, it is not very different than the field of human resources. Today, the whole business is working being a model of human-centric. Now, everybody in every field, every corner, we all have understood that business is different, or what the factor making difference in the field of business and management, that's the human being. And after the outbreak of this pandemic, more and more the organizations, the systems, the processes are becoming human-centric. I had read about Kotler a few years back, and Kotler's 1.1 marketing theory, he was focusing for the targeting, he was focusing on connecting the customer with the product. While he talked about marketing 2.0, he was talking about quality product and connecting the targeted audience. But while he talked about marketing 3.0, he was talking about understanding the people and connecting the values with the people. Understanding the people, their requirement, and the values created in the system that should be connected to that to solve that issue. So while talking about marketing today itself, I remember some of the discussion with some media and within different forums of some world leaders. I was reading the book of Steve Jobs, where he has specifically focused the business and marketing, the whole theory, the whole system revolves around the dreams. He has reinforced several times. The people sell the dreams. They never sell the products. Whenever you will be going to sell the products, if the quality, the requirement, its values, its price, it will come in the way. But if we are going to sell the dreams are connected to the aspirations. The people buy the dreams. So the business organization should focus on selling the dreams. And second thing, he focuses that while making a marketing strategy, we should be very specific. It should be very simple. When our concept and strategy is very simple, it can connect to the hearts. It can connect to the hearts. And when the aspiration comes from the hearts, when it is coming from the guts, then it's become, I can say, the intensive requirement. And it's connected to the dreams. Third thing he focuses that he said that very shamelessly, I always steal the good ideas from the world. And he always said that genius are there, those who are the dreamers. He has always reinforced genius are those who are the dreamers. The dreamers, though whether they are having the graduates from the big schools or they are not having the graduation certificates from any big school, they are different and they are the genius and they makes the difference in this world. Third thing, second, I was reading about Larry Page. He has very much focused while he talked about marketing. He spoke about that whenever we are going for the marketing, we should focus on the ethics. What the ethics a business has created, what ethics a business is following. He has focused on respecting others' interest, others' aspiration, respecting always the person in front of you. He has always focused on that while he talked about the marketing strategies. A third person I was following, Warren Buffett. He has focused on passion. He has always focused on passion. And if we take all those values together, it can be respect, it can be ethics, it can be the interest, it can be dream, it can be passion. Everything is human centric. And today in marketing, the one important factor that makes the difference in today's marketing style, that whatever I have understood, that is the psychology marketing. How much we understand the world, how much we understand the people, and how we connect the values we have created in our system to that aspiration, to that interest. So that makes the difference. And that psychological marketing strategies today, that makes the difference in this world. And when we talk about the service, sometimes we think that only in knowledge industries, the human-centric marketing strategies work. Sometimes I was discussing with some marketing experts. They were saying that you are in education. For that, you have understood the education industry well. So you are discussing with the thought leaders, you are discussing with the knowledge workers. And in those sectors, the human-centric marketing strategies or psychology-centric marketing strategies work. Just before I can say that, I was discussing with that professor and one of the director of one company 8-9 years back. But while today I listen to the CEO of Hindustan Lever, CEO of any other organization, everybody is talking about psychological marketing. Everybody is talking about human-centric marketing. And they say that without understanding the people, without understanding psychology, the marketing is not possible. And coming to KIIT, as I am working in KIIT since very first day of this organization, I can say that whenever there is nothing in this campus, there was nothing in KIIT University. We just started in 1997 in a rented building. We all are sitting, only 15-20 people are there. And whenever we talk to our founder, he says that when I remember that when first campus was to be purchased by KIIT, he said that I'm going to buy a campus. And today I say that campus will be one of the most beautiful campus in this country. When nothing was there, just he was coming to buy a very 2 acres of land, but that dream was there with him. So we have seen that how dream makes the difference. And I remember that mostly since very beginning, I was the person who was the interface of KIIT between the public, the parents, and KIIT. I was always discussing with the students, with the parents, and I was the person who was the face of KIIT to interact with outside. Not the branding and other things, the statutory requirement was taken care of by our honorable founder. But whatever he says, when I talk to the people about that, when we had nothing with us, we are operating in a rented building, and after that, in a 1 acre of land in a small campus, whenever he says that we are going to get the best accreditation in this country, and this is our plan for that, this is our dream for that, and we, each one of us, have to make sure that we can realize that dream by our efforts, by our by following some strategies. And he put some very simple strategies in place that Professor Gyanaranjan Mahanti, who's sitting aside me, he was also there in KIIT since very beginning. We never think that it cannot be done. Whenever he puts the system in such a simplified way, Professor Samantha, he puts in such a simple way, we never feel that it's difficult to follow. So today in new normal, I think that always in business scenario, we all are evolving. We all are changing with the change of requirements. Sometimes technology is making disruptions. Sometimes economy is making disruptions. Sometimes politics is making disruptions. So business organizations are used to they are having the system they have developed the ecosystem to match to that. But in this new normal, I think that some more pressing requirements are there, and all are trying hard to reach up to that expectation. And all those strategists, all the experts present in this conclave, I hope that with your prudence, your knowledge, the whole audience will get benefited out of that. So thank you all for being here and having the interest to enrich our students, our faculties, and all of us here. Thank you, Professor Soni, once again to come here and being agreed to deliver address to our students. I hope that with your practical experience, with your knowledge, each one of us will get enriched, and we'll be getting some clues from you with your practical, I can say that practical experiences and your strategies, whatever you're following in the business world. Of course, academics and knowledge is different, but it's something different you can learn from you as you are there in food technology sector. So it will give us some new knowledge about that. So thank you being agreed to be here. Our students, those who are present here, I hope that all of you, if we listen keenly to all the leaders present here, we'll be getting different clues for that. Whenever we listen to anyone, we share the experiences, we try to connect ourselves, our dream to that experiences, then automatically it creates new knowledge within us, new wisdom within us. I hope each one of us, or each one of you present here should get that. Thank you, and all the best to each one of you for the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We are fortunate to have with us Mr. Aseem Soni, CEO and board member of Modern Foods, as the keynote speaker of the conclave. Mr. Soni is the CEO and board member of Modern Foods, an iconic brand that pioneers the concept of bread in the Indian market. Mr. Soni has over 25 years of experience across various functions in different companies in diverse categories and varied cultures. For the last 15 years, he has been at senior management levels where he was engaged in getting the best out of teams of all shapes and sizes. His leadership style is unimposing, watchful, and supportive, with a view on long-term sustainability. He respects growth that comes on the back of meticulous planning, strong commitment, and a few failures. He has been leading businesses and business verticals with people and P&L responsibility since the year 2005. His early professional decades have been spent in sales and marketing. His specialties include people situation, process orientation, team building, science of sales and distribution, consumer behavior, replicating success models, and data-based observations. Mr. Soni has completed his Bachelor's of Commerce from Delhi University, PGDRM in Marketing and Finance from Institute of Rural Management Anand, and his MDP in Marketing Effectiveness from XLRI Jamshedpur. We are glad to have you here with us, sir. I request you to give the keynote address.
Sir, you are not audible to us. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for this very long introduction. The respected founder of this great university, who's I learned not here today with all of you, but he's listening from somewhere. Dr. Shamanta, the Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Shashmita Shamanta, who's given such an enlightening start to this conclave. I'll probably draw from some of the very interesting points that you have mentioned in your short spiel, if you allow me. The director of the School of Management, Dr. Mahapatra, the dean, the conclave convener, professors, industry experts, and most important of all, the students who are on this platform right now, today, listening to all of us. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. I feel honored to be invited to this forum. Not too many times one gets a chance to address so many people, especially in the student fraternity. And this is a great way to sort of give back and share some of the experiences. So friends, let me come straight to the point. The world has become a smaller place over the last 10 months. We all know that, we all feel it. People interactions have become very convenient. And I think we are also fortunate to have successfully rebooted our lives. It all happened in a jiffy, as they say, but it all happened for the better. And I don't think I have not met anybody so far who has not adapted to or adopted this new way of life, because that was the thing to do, and one could not have survived if one did not have that ability to flex oneself. The theme of this conclave is exactly that. It's marketing in the new normal. But I would like to little disrupt this whole theme, because I feel personally that if anybody thinks that the new normal started like 10 months back with the COVID story, I think that person could be a little mistaken. The consumer for us has been changing rapidly since the beginning of this century. The only change in the COVID times has been that this rate of change has increased. Otherwise, the consumer has been surprising us with the way she is getting more demanding, getting more discerning, and with her changing behaviors every 5 years, last 20 years, we have seen a very different consumer. But I think the fundamental point is, in these new times, whether they started 20 years back or whether they started 10 months back, how do you continue to remain smart marketers in the coming decade, over the next 10, 20, 30 years? I think that's the fundamental point, and that's the point we should probably touch upon today. And I'm sure you're doing this in your workshops, but today, a few things from my side is what I'd like to add to this topic. So at the core of everything, at the core of this whole marketing space is the consumer. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that understanding the consumer for the category in which you're playing is the most important. If we all have to become smart marketers of the coming decade or the coming 20 years, we have to keep understanding her, because, as I said, the consumer is always changing. And I'm using the word she, I'm sorry, because I've been running businesses over the last many years where my consumer has been the homemaker. So in a very normal parlance, I end up using the word she. But while I say that understanding the consumer for the category in which you are engaged with her is very important, the truth also is that understanding her is not easy. And if I want to borrow what Professor Shashmita Shamanta was quoting a while back from the book by Steve Jobs, I think the chief of Apple also used to say that the consumer doesn't know what she wants. And I think that makes reading her even more challenging, because even if one is able to get into her mind to understand what the consumer really wants, because she does not know what she really wants and what she is missing in life, it becomes all the more challenging to extract that point from her. Nevertheless, I think the fundamental point is that understanding the consumer is the starting point. Understanding the consumer can be very, very rewarding for all of us to succeed in what we are trying to expect and trying to achieve in this marketing world. At the same time, not understanding the consumer can also be very painful. Let me also put that caution here. All around us, all of you see so many, for example, so many passenger cars being launched in India every year, right? Not every model, not every car sees the light of the day in terms of success. Obviously, somebody has not done his or her work properly. Somebody has not ended up understanding what the consumer wants, right? Let me also go back into my experience and quote some examples here. I used to work for a company called Indian Shaving Products way back in the 90s. And we used to have this brand of blades being sold called 7 o'clock blades. And this company outside our country used to sell this brand called Gillette. And I still remember I was part of the team that wanted to bring Gillette into the country, and we launched this new brand Gillette. And the first product that we launched under that brand was a disposable shaver. A shaver of 5 rupees or 6 rupees that you would buy, and then you would use it for like 15, 20 days, and then you would throw it. And there was so much of intense, focused consumer work that was done behind that product launch. And so much of training that happened in the entire organization, so much of money spent on creating capacities and creating a solid marketing plan, blah, 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 what have you. And the product was launched and the product bombed. And I think the company literally had to reboot itself over the next 2 to 3 years while it came out of that shock, that how can a product that has successfully seen so many glorious years all over the world, how could it have bombed or failed in a country like India? And a lot of work was done. And the fundamental point that was discovered was that somewhere, some researcher, some marketer missed the point that consumers in India, when they use something, when they buy something and use something, don't like to throw away. The consumer in India is used to refilling, is used to reattaching, and when he feels that he bought something worth 5, 6, 7 rupees and he's used it and he has to now throw the stick, he feels that he's throwing away a part of the value, a part of the cost that he spent on that product. Now, this was a great insight, right? And wish this could have been researched much better in those days. And I'm talking about the 90s, and I'm sure the world has changed since then. And with younger consumers and with more use and throw attitude developing over the last 20 years, we are living in a new world. But I think in the early 90s, when this was done, somebody could have researched this a little better. Let me give you another example, because I really want to make this session a little more insightful from my own examples rather than try and share concepts with you. I'm sure you have all the concepts lying in all the books, but my value addition here is if I can dig deeper into my experience. So the business that I run currently is the modern foods business. And we actually acquired this company about 4.5 years back. And we have a very good market share in the bread segment in the south of India. And we're the market leaders there. And we're also the market leaders in a state called Kerala. Now, 4 years back, when we went to this market called Kerala, we realized a very interesting situation. We realized that people are starting to consume less and less of bread, the daily bread, that we use in our homes. People are starting to consume less and less of that, and they are moving to eating chapatis in the state of Kerala. Now, this was a very interesting find for us because we had never seen South Indians adopt chapatis, which is normally a food or a staple of the north of India or a central part of India. But we are seeing in the state of Kerala 4 years back that suddenly people are moving from bread to chapati. And while we were very strong in the bread segment, we had very little presence in the chapati segment. The ready-to-cook chapati, we used to sell something like 2,000 chapatis per day, which is a very insignificant number. So we said this particular piece needs to be understood. And I'm just giving this example because I want you to appreciate how consumer can be read and how one can leverage this read or this insight into something meaningful and something which is good for the business. So we went to the consumer, and in a little painstaking way, we started to read her. We had qualitative discussions with her. We had research where we sat down with her and we probed and got into her mind. We had groups that came and discussed a few topics. And over the next 30 days, we realized that the consumer loves to serve chapatis to her family now instead of bread because she finds chapatis to be more healthy, but she doesn't know how to make chapatis because she's never made chapatis in her life. This is a new introduction. And when she makes chapatis, it is in all shapes and sizes. And when she serves it to the family, she is not seen as a good cook. Even if she's making fantastic curries and vegetables, when she takes the ill-formed chapatis to the family, she's seen as a poor cook. So she's wanting something ready-made, something she can buy off the shelf and serve to the consumer. But while she wants something ready-made, she does not want something fully cooked, because if she serves something fully cooked to the family, then she's not adding her value and her love into what she's giving to the family. And we picked up this insight very strongly, and we probed further, and we asked her that, okay, if we do not give you a fully cooked chapati and we give you a half-cooked chapati, will that work for you? Because then you're adding your own value to the whole serving to the family. And she said, absolutely, because that is exactly where I need to add some value to it. And you know what we did? We used to sell something like 2,000 chapatis, which were all in a fully cooked manner off the shelf, and we changed the whole format. Over the next 60 to 90 days, we went back to the drawing board and we got this insight from the consumer, and we realized and appreciated that she wants a half-cooked chapati, which she can fully cook at home. And we created that product and we launched it and offered it to her. Last 4 years, let me give you a simple surrogate and a number. Our sales have grown from 2,000 chapatis per day 4 years ago. Today we are doing 200,000 chapatis per day. I repeat, 200,000 chapatis per day. And I think the entire credit for this change goes to the person or the researcher who actually brought about this insight from the consumer. So such is the power of consumer research. If you are able to understand the consumer in the category in which you're engaging with her or him, whatever, it can make so much of a difference in you being able to satisfy her, delight her, pamper her, whatever word you want to use. And I think that's the starting point of this whole space of marketing. Whether it is pre-COVID or post-COVID, we have to read our consumer better than what we have done in the past. So that's the big point I want to make in this spiel today. I think some of the other insights that I have gathered over the last few years around the consumer, because that's what this topic is all about, is that the Indian consumer is a little different than the global consumer. The Indian consumer continues to remain very optimistic all the time, whether we go through a financial crisis or we go through COVID times. Anytime you go to the consumer for research, he or she feels, oh, you know what? The bad times are going to be over very soon. And in the next 3 to 6 months, we're all going to be very happy and things will all fall in place. And I think that's a great attitude to have. Why? Because A, it sort of retains positivity in the whole consumer space, in the whole buying space, in the whole consumption space. And B, I think the consumer is not hesitant to spend. The propensity to keep spending continues to be there. And that's good news for all the marketers and all the people who are in business. So I think that's something that I've been observing over the last, in fact, 10, 15 years. Every time I've gone to the consumer, she gives me the good news. I think over the last 5 to 7 years, what also has happened is that the consumer is no longer as loyal as he or she was in the past. And I think this whole space of e-commerce is also adding to this lack of loyalty. The consumer today is willing to shift loyalties. It will not be wrong to say that she is becoming a little more transactional, and she's becoming a little more discerning when it comes to extracting the value for money that she's spending. And the value for money has a lot of angles to it. It's not just about the money you're paying for the product, it's about what you're getting in return as the value. And that value need not be just the product. That value goes beyond the product to equity and trust in the brand or the stuff that you're buying, right? But she's looking for that value, whether the value comes from the price, a very crazy price equation, or the value comes from a fantastic trust in the brand, which is tried and tested, and she cannot look elsewhere, but she's looking for value. And a combination of this means that the task of the marketers is definitely becoming more challenging. There's no doubt about it. And we see it around us also, in our houses. If you look at the consumer durable space, for example, you don't have one brand all over your house, right? The fridge that you use, the geyser that you use, or the air conditioner that you use, or the heater that you use, they all belong to different brands, right? Probably you've gone to the market and you've seen the best deal, and you've got that, right? Take the example of a bathing soap, for example. How many brands of soap has each one of us consumed over the last 12 months? I'm sure the answer is not one brand. The answer is ranging from 2 to 5 brands or 2 to 7 brands. And that's the reality of the marketplace. So what am I saying? I'm saying that, and the point I'm putting on the table is that if you want your consumer to stick with you, friends, focus on offering her strong value for money. That comes with a combination of course, product quality, but also a lot of brand equity and brand trust, which is not built over a day, but built over time. And there has to be a lot of consistency in that space. I think one of the third trends I'm seeing in the market is also about this whole shift of this online space. And I think we're all ourselves examples of that, right? In these COVID times, so much of us have moved to so much of online. It's not funny. And I think what it's doing in the shopper space is that it's definitely giving more choice to the consumer. Because when you go to a typical store or even a supermarket, you are constrained by what is there on the shelf. But in the online space, on the platforms, there is no dearth. You can keep scrolling top to bottom, and you can keep choosing, and that brings more options to the consumer. That also creates a new situation where now the large trusted brands can be challenged by the younger brands that are claiming to offer better value and that are looking for new consumers. And I think that's what makes life, again, even more challenging for the marketer, where he or she has to keep rediscovering the brand, the company, the consumer, himself, the organization, to keep serving that eventual consumer all the time in an appropriate manner. So I think that's another trend that we are seeing all over. I think one of the other things that we are seeing, and we are realizing it, but I think we are not acknowledging it today as vehemently as we should, is this new discovery or the new value that we are finding in living together, in living at home, in working from home, in trying to not acquire assets, but prefer to lease or hire assets for a short time because we want a little more liquidity around us in these uncertain times, right? I think this is a very long-lasting, impactful change that we are going to see amongst the consumers. It's going to reboot a lot of things. It's going to reboot aspirations. It's going to teach a lot of people to live with less. It's going to bring a lot of people back to a little more basic needs in life and trying to relish those rather than aspiring to go to the next level of material acquisition. And while this may not be good news in the short term, but I think it opens new opportunities for a lot of marketers to create innovation and disruption in basic areas rather than in more evolved categories or industries. And I think that's something that probably we will start accepting as time goes by. So that's what I feel about the consumer, about how important she is, how she's changing. But apart from the consumer, I think I want to leave you with a couple of more insights, if you like, on how the whole ecosystem around us is changing. Because unless we also appreciate the ecosystem, we may not be able to do justice to the work that we are doing to serve our consumer, because it all has to dovetail into each other. And on that front, some of the other changes that we are seeing in the ecosystem, of course, Professor Mahapatra talked about, and he touched upon this fact, this whole piece about technology, which is driven by data today. And we have so much of big data, data analytics, AI, IoT, people are on social media. Technology is playing a big role in the way consumers are deciding, consumers are making choices, in the way the companies are reaching out to consumers, or they can reach out to consumers in the future. That whole space is changing. And I think it's important not just to appreciate it, but also to get ready to accept and participate in that whole change. Because I sincerely feel the companies who do not participate, who do not embrace technology today, are going to be left behind like nothing else. I think the other thing that's happening around us, this whole innovation and disruption that's happening. And while startups are doing a great job at that, but the other point to appreciate is this conventional evolution of a lot of categories is changing. What example can I give you here? So take the example of mobile phones, right? India in the 90s moved from the landline phones to mobile phones. But the world did not move like that. The world moved from landline phones to pagers. And the world stayed with pagers for about 10 years before they moved to the mobile phones. India saw just a couple of years of the pager revolution. Take another example. In the continent of Africa, where I've spent some time, the financial markets moved from the cash system to banking to mobile payments. India did not move like that, right? The rest of the world did not move like that. The rest of the world moved from cash to bank to credit cards. The rest of the world had about 2 decades of credit cards before they embraced mobile payments, but not Africa. Africa bypassed the whole credit card phase and moved straight from banking to mobile payments. And today, Africa's penetration, I'm talking about the better markets in Africa, Africa's penetration of mobile payments is more than what we have in India, right? So what I'm saying is that the classical evolution of categories is not necessarily true going forward. Innovation and disruption will make a lot of segments, countries, clusters catch up to the new normal, cutting across a lot of stages. And I think we all need to be ready for that, because if we're ready for that, then we can offer our consumers the latest at the right time. I think a couple of other trends that we are seeing in the ecosystem is markets becoming more fragmented, markets becoming more heterogeneous. Today, you cannot launch a product, even pan-India. You can't. You have to tailor-make it. You can't even sometimes launch it in the whole of a region of India. You have to tailor-make it to the state, to consumers. I can tell you, again, my example. I am the second largest bread player in the country today. We bake about more than 500,000 loaves of bread every morning. And all my, let's say, 15 large markets that I have, I serve a different quality of bread to the consumer because it's based on what the consumer in that city wants. It's not based on what I want to sell. So the markets are getting more heterogeneous. The whole concept of national marketing, national media, national communication is all going out of the window now. And unless you are tailor-making your product and communication at the local level, and there are platforms to help you to reach to the consumer at the local level, I think success may not come. So this appreciation is critical. I think the last point I want to mention, again, environment related, is this whole piece about business ethics and how there has been a gradual but consistent increase in this whole business ethics in our business environment in this country. And I think we all should appreciate that even the government today is talking about employee welfare, things like paternity leaves, can we have a 4-day week, work from home is possible, friends, no problem, we don't want to police you. That kind of a culture is coming in strongly in the Indian industry. I mean, whatever category you operate in. CSR is becoming very important, not just for the sake of CSR, not just for meeting the law, which says that 2% of your profits must go towards CSR, but things like there's a feeling in every company, I want to give back to the society. I think companies are also using that as a platform to build trust in the brand, to show to consumers that they are responsible players. They just don't earn money, but they want to contribute to the uplifting of the local ecosystem. So I think that's becoming very, 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 very important over time. I think compliance is another area which is becoming very, very important. There is a much lower tolerance for non-compliance today, whether it is financial non-compliance, regulatory non-compliance. people are wanting to be more compliant. In my company, I have to be concerned about regulatory compliances, secretarial compliances, financial compliances, HR compliances, legal compliances, food safety compliances. And every compliance means that I have to be alert to the documents, to the latest in the industry, and keep ticking those boxes. Am I doing my bit to ensure that my consumers are getting what they want, and the government is getting what it wants, and my employees are getting what they want. So I think all this is is changing in the Indian ecosystem. So friends, as you guys step into the industry and you become part of this think tank and corporate world and stuff like that, you may like to consider some of these trends that I've talked about. And happy to connect with you anytime in the future to give you more specific examples or to participate with you in building any new model that you want to pick me on. So thank you very much for this keynote address. Brings me to the end of today's session, and thank you once again to everybody for this great opportunity to share so much in such a short time with so many people on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was an insightful address. Before we move forward, let's sit back and enjoy the conclave video, The Voice of Students, made by the school's media club.
To me, marketing in this new normal is all about survival of the quickest. It's about adaptability and delivering value at the same time by keeping customer as the prime focus.
For me, marketing is positioning of offerings better than the competitors.
From being an excellent communicator to having an eye for detail is a must skill for any marketeer. Also, one needs to attain analytical thinking and be comfortable while handling large amount of data.
As a marketer, the salary that we get is not paid by our employers. In fact, they just handle the money. It is basically paid by our customers. Hence, how gratified our customers are towards our product, service and our capabilities is exactly what we mean when we talk about customer satisfaction. The most satisfied customer is the best advertisement a brand can ever have.
Hello everyone, I am Anesha Dikshit. I had been taking part in the marketing simulation. It was a nice and different experience for me. I think it's a very good opportunity for the marketing students to increase their marketing skills, and I had a very knowledgeable experience. The question was really fun, clever, and interesting at the same time, and I'm looking forward to take part in the simulation in future as well. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Soumya Verma, and I'm really thankful for KIIT School of Management for providing such a great platform wherein me and my team were able to showcase our business-oriented skills in a fun and interactive manner. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Harshita from IIM Lucknow. I got an opportunity to participate in National Marketing Konclave by KIIT. Firstly, I would like to thank KIIT for giving me this opportunity, and secondly, I would like to share my experience regarding the simulation. I can say that this was a very unique experience for me as it involved gamification along with the application of certain marketing concepts. And also, I felt that the simulation was quite engaging compared to a traditional case study competition. Thank you.
Hope you all liked it. As part of the conclave, we had organized pre-conclave competitions which were a huge success. There were more than 1,500 registrations from reputed educational institutions spanning across the country. The winners of the marketing quiz are Ms. Sonali Das from KIIT School of Management, Ms. Sheetal Panigrahi from KIIT School of Management. The winners of the online marketing simulation game are Mr. Ashutosh Patnaik, Ms. Soumya Verma, and Mr. Kishan Kumar Mahunta from KIIT School of Management. Second, Mr. Abhijit Kumar Singh, Ms. Anyesha Dikshit from KIIT School of Management. Third, Mr. P.R. Vyasak, Ms. K. Harshita, and Mr. Kishore K.S. from Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. Congratulations to all the winners. To give the vote of thanks, we have with us Professor S.N. Mishra, Dean, KIIT School of Management. He was an officer in the Indian Defense Accounts Service, where he served as the Director of Finance with DRDO. He did his MA in Applied Economics and has a PhD in Economics. Post-retirement, he teaches economics and contributes handsomely to prestigious research journals. I request Professor Mishra to give the vote of thanks.
Good morning, friends. On behalf of our director, Professor Saroj Kumar Mahapatra, let me thank all the participants in this today's inaugural program. To begin with, our director set the context and flagged the important trends which are happening in the post-pandemic world. He mentioned about the importance of innovation, data analytics, and the new phenomena of personalization and localization, new customization. So these were the mega trends that he mentioned, which are happening on the side of marketing. Professor Samantha, our Pro Vice Chancellor, made reference to three important thinkers of our times. She mentioned about Philip Kotler, acknowledged international expert in marketing, how he, in his 3.0 suggestion, 3.0 flagged the importance of bringing value to marketing. Her important concern was that marketing is not different from the human element. She also referred to Steve Jobs, who flagged the importance of selling dreams, aspiration to customers. She also made a reference to Warren Buffett, who flagged the importance of passions. Most importantly for her, I think connecting value to marketing and studying the psychological aspects of marketing are extremely, extremely important. Finally, we had the keynote address from Mr. Asim Soni, CEO from Modern Food Industries. He brought in a lot of anecdotes from his personal experience and global experience to underlie how the present times are different from the old times. He did mention that we are, of course, rebooting our lives. And he also mentioned that just before the pandemic, there was a change which was discernible in the customers, but the change is happening much faster. And gave examples of Gillette, how in the Indian context, consumers are very, very wary of use and throw policy as we see with the Americans. He also mentioned how they faced challenge in typical markets of Kerala for transiting from bread to chapati. But he really flagged a very interesting trend that the consumer, despite all the pessimism that we hear in the papers, are essentially very optimistic and exude confidence. But he also mentioned that consumers are no longer as loyal as before. And there is a tendency of a large number of brands proliferating the market. Finally, he mentioned about the ecosystem, how the ecosystem has changed, how technology, the artificial intelligence, robotics, IoT, they are playing a very important role in the market. And most importantly, the market has become heterogeneous. You don't have just a product dominating business. In fact, he mentioned even in the context of bread, where he has a pan-Indian business, how the quality of bread differs from state to state. So the final thing that he mentioned, that business ethics has become an extremely important area, and how most of the companies are realizing that the importance of compliance, safety cannot be done away with. So this is something which is very, very positive. Thank you very much, Mr. Soni, for a very wonderful keynote address. And I, on behalf of all the faculty members, students, would like to thank you for bringing such wonderful insight. I also take this opportunity to thank Professor Mahanti, our registrar, to be in our midst for this conclave. We are missing our adorable, venerable founder, Professor Achyuta Samanta, but he is always in our midst intellectually. He has been very, very supportive virtually all the time. And I would like to thank on behalf of all of you for the kind of support, for the way that he has managed the pandemic situation. And from whatever we hear, the KIIT University, the KIIT School of Management, the parents seem to be very, very, very happy the way that the online teaching is proceeding. He has been a real inspiration behind all of this. I also thank the organization for organizing such a wonderful conclave. And before I end, let me mention that we have a wonderful book by Farid Zakaria. He mentions about 10 lessons in a post-pandemic world. And he does mention that the ugly pandemic has opened a path to a new world. And I think the conclave that we are going to have, the deliberations that we are going to have, will hopefully bring to the table to all our management students the new path, the new pathway they have to travel together. The great economist John Maynard Keynes had written about 86 years back that the difficulty doesn't lie in introducing new ideas, but replacing old ones. I think the time has come when we have to embrace all the change and be positive and optimistic while taking note of the changing landscape in consumer behavior in the area of marketing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. With this, we come to an end of the inaugural session of the conclave. We will be starting with the panel discussions in a minute. Thank you.
Thank you.
A very good morning to esteemed panelists, respected attendees, and our lovable KTNs. I, Professor Joydeep Biswas, welcome all of you to this session of panel discussion on the interesting theme, how the marketer can create value for consumers, firms, and society in the new normal, organized by KIIT School of Management, KIIT University. Life, the way we knew, seems to have changed, at least for now, and all of us are adapting to this new normal. In the coming session, we are keen to listen to our panelists and understand what has this new normal meant for their firms, for their consumers, and society at large. Let me begin by first introducing the galaxy of corporate stars who have gathered here today for the discussion on this interesting topic. Our first panelist is Mr. Rajneesh Bhasin, Managing Director, Mavana Foods, and who shall also moderate the panel. Rajneesh is an FMCG professional with work experience of over 23 years, having handled product categories varying from impulse to planned purchase, geographies from urban to rural, both in India and abroad. In his current role as MD Mavana Foods, he has worked on revamping the whole organization and changed the business process model from a commodity approach to an FMCG way of working. Before joining Mavana Foods, Rajneesh was working as Managing Director India for Borges International Group, a Spanish organization. He successfully created a leadership position for Borges in the olive oil category in India from a zero base. As a testimonial to his leadership, the brand was voted the #1 olive oil brand by Nielsen. In his earlier stints, he has launched power brands like Cadbury Dairy Milk and Gems internationally in Sri Lanka during his stint with Cadbury, now known as Mondelez. He's also been associated with setting up Walmart's first cash and carry store in India. His specializations include running country-level P&Ls, turning around businesses, sales and marketing of consumer goods, and developing long-term business strategies for new product categories in new markets. Rajneesh, welcome to the National Marketing Konclave as our eminent panelist and moderator for the session. Welcome, Rajneesh.
Thank you, Joydeep. I'm happy to be.
Then we have with us Mr. Sanjeet Satpathy, a 3M veteran with nearly an association of 22 years. Wow, Sanjeet. I must say that many students will find that to be an amazing and hard to believe fact when the current generation struggles to stay with a firm for more than 2 years. Sanjit is currently Executive Director, Managing Asia Business for Consumer and Home Improvement Markets Division, 3M. Prior to this, he was leading the Consumer Business Group. He has been involved in building some of the iconic 3M brands in India like Scotch Brite, Post-it, and Scotch Guard. He has good hands-on experience in business and organizational management, including sales and distribution, marketing, brand development, operation management, and business strategy. But the area which is closest to him is mentoring people, which is highly sought by our young audience here. Sanjit is a management graduate from IIM Ahmedabad. He is a member of Asia leadership team for 3M Consumer Business since 2015. Sanjit, I humbly welcome you to the panel discussion of National Marketing Conclave. Welcome, Sanjeev.
Thanks, Jaideep. Thank you.
Our next panelist is the youngest of all, Mr. Alvin Agnell, founder and CEO Pagalguy.com, a company which most in the audience would have used at some point of time in their life. Pagalguy started as a research into finding an unbiased website for business school aspirants and led to the foundation of website that would allow aspirants to share information about getting into top Indian MBA programs. This was long before social media platforms like Facebook were created. Alvin founded Pagalguy.com in 2002 along with Neutral Web, a digital storage company. Pagalguy.com has today grown to a community of over 8 lakh users, becoming not only the world's largest forum for aspiring MBA students, but India's largest educational website altogether. Alvin started his entrepreneurial journey at the age of 21 when he co-founded Neutral Web. Today, Neutral Web has clients in over 16 countries and hosts in excess of 8,000 websites. All this started from a credit card loan and a small apartment. Alvin is an alumnus of Mumbai University and did his master's from Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania at a young age of 25. He also won the prestigious Ford Foundation Award for his work on analyzing emerging technologies. He holds a private pilot's license and yearns to go back to the sky to either fly an aircraft or skydive. Well, that is a flying list of achievements, Alvin. I'm sure the audience here with an average age of 22 would like to know how it feels to be the founder of a successful organization at a young age of 22. Alvin, I thank you for being part of today's discussion and welcome you in the panel. Welcome, Alvin.
Well, thank you so very much.
Our fourth panelist is Mr. Rajiv Mitra, CEO and Director Prabhat Dairy Group Lactalis, which is one of the world's largest dairy company based out of France. Prior to joining Prabhat Dairy, Rajiv has held various senior level positions with RPG Group, Reliance, and Bharti Airtel. Rajiv is a multi-dimensional personality. He is a business leader, commentator on social and economic affairs, member and office bearer of several industry bodies, on advisory boards of postgraduate institutions, MSMEs, and startup companies, and also keen on mentoring students and professionals. Surely, Rajiv, many students in the audience would be extremely keen on being mentored by you. Rajiv is a postgraduate in economics and an MBA in marketing. He is also a voracious reader, moviegoer, golfer, and sports lover. And I'm certain that with such diverse interests, he is an expert at time management. Rajiv, I extend a warm welcome to the panel discussion of National Marketing Konclave. Welcome, Rajiv.
Thank you.
Our fifth and final panelist is Ms. Priya Gilgule, Chief Operating Officer at Manipal Cigna Health Insurance Company Limited. In her current role, she is responsible for development and execution of Manipal Cigna's operational strategy, as well as enhancing the service delivery capability while accelerating growth. Her experience spans across operations, strategic planning, sales, business development, and automation. Along with her multi-sectorial expertise, a strong people focus has been instrumental in shaping Priya's exceptional career trajectory. Before joining Manipal Cigna, she has held key positions across various conglomerates such as Max Bupa, Health Insurance, Cognizant, United Health Group, and GTL Limited, with a rich and diverse experience spanning over 25 years. And I am Lucknow alumnus. Priya strongly believes in the quote, "You have two lives, and the second one begins when you realize you have only one." Her drive to excel in this one life has led her to be the winner of prestigious India's Top 100 Women in Finance for 2020, Mrs. India International 2017 title, All India Golden Achievers Award, Woman of Substance 2017, and recipient of several other industry awards and recognition. In addition to her professional commitments, Priya is an avid reader, enjoys singing, and is dedicated to philanthropic work and spirituality. A dynamic professional, doting mother, and humanitarian all at the same time. She truly signifies a balanced persona in both personal and professional fronts. Breaking the glass ceiling and reaching to the highest levels of corporate success has been a part of her journey. She's always believed that we are as strong as we think we are, and that one has the power to overcome any challenge in life. And to think of it, sometimes students here tell us that they can't manage their time for doing few assignments. They certainly need to take a leaf out of Priya's book. Priya, we look forward to your words of wisdom during the panel discussion of National Marketing Konclave. Now that I've introduced all the panelists, I shall quickly remove myself as a barrier between the panelists and our audience and hand over the session to Rajneesh for an enriching discussion. Rajneesh, all over to you.
Thank you, Joydeep, for such a excellent introduction to all of us. I'm really honored to be part of this panel with such esteemed panelists with me. Among the five of us, we have more than 120 to 130 years of experience. And I think this 1 hour that we'll spend together and discuss topic around the new normal will be a very interesting 1 hour to spend with the panelists and listen to questions from students as they come by. So without taking more time, I would straight away jump into the topic for discussion today. So the topic for the panel discussion that we're about to start is how marketeers can create value for customers, firms, and society in this new normal. So before we jump in and I will get going with this, I would want to briefly touch upon from organizational standpoint what we look at it as a new normal. Okay, so newspapers are talking about new normal every day, and according to me, in a very short, brief explanation, at least from how we are going through as business leaders with the new normal, I think new normal is not a static new normal. It's a changing new normal every day. It's changing every day because the new challenges arrive every second day. And as business leaders, we need to learn how to cope with it, handle it, and take the opportunities and the challenges forward in the same stride. So having said this, I think I will not complicate it too much for our MBA friends. I would like to start with a couple of anecdotes, and I think it'll set the tone for the meeting today. So one story goes back to my Cadbury days, which is around 2004-5. Many of our colleagues here would be in their early teens when, and hope some of you remember this, that Cadbury had a kind of a crisis in 2004-5, and I was part of that team when we dealt with that crisis. So this was when Cadbury was hit with the warm controversy in 2004-5, and I was part of Cadbury's in those years. And our managing director then was Mr. Bharat Puri, and a legend in the FMCG world. Today he's the president and CEO of Pidilite in India. So I remember those days, and to fight with the warm controversy, what I was heading North India for Cadbury's as associate vice president North India, and we were all putting our best forward to come out of the issue. We had launched a program called Operation Vishwas to take care of the warm controversy related issues in the market. We were trying to pick back stocks. Anybody, any retailer, any consumer. We had set up a hotline. Any consumer, any retailer had any complaint, we would just go address that issue and pick the products back and try and solve their issues, whether it was customers, retailers. And we just wanted the Vishwas or the confidence of the retailers won back. Okay. So that's what we were dealing with. And there was this huge amount of stress in that ecosystem. Okay. And in the middle of that, there was a situation where we said we need to relaunch Perk. I'm sure everybody's consumed Perk, and it's a chocolate that I love. So we were relaunching Perk, and there's this brand manager of Perk who's there in Delhi for the relaunch, and we did a huge hoopla event where there was a lot of fanfare, a lot of noise, a lot of positivity trying to be created with the team so that everybody tries to think less about the warm controversy and enjoy that moment in terms of a relaunch. So while we were trying to do all of that, there was a strong undercurrent that all of us were feeling, right? We were all feeling that when will this warm controversy kind of thing end? You know, the subsidiaries' existence itself was in some way a question mark. Will UK let the subsidiary run as it is? Will it shut down? So those kind of questions were running in everybody's mind. And Bharat walks into the conference towards the end, addresses the larger group. And as soon as the fanfare of the Perk launch was over, he said, let's go have drinks and dinner somewhere. So he took the leadership team with him. And we were sitting in a 5-star hotel having drinks. He ordered scotch, his usual flair. He had a cigar, and we were all chatting. And the beauty of that evening, and I cannot forget it, 15 years back, and it's starkling clear in my mind even today, was that there was no discussion about how the controversy was being handled. We spent 2 hours. We had interesting conversations about the interesting journey Cadbury had, about family, friends. He asked me about how my wife was doing, how my kids were doing. And the environment was so comfortable that I cannot believe to tell you that the India MD was not discussing business. The India MD was not discussing anything about how the warm controversy was being handled, because he knew there were capable people in this room who knew what they were supposed to do. So at the end of the evening, when most of us went back, we had tears in our eyes that it's unbelievable. And you can imagine, as an India managing director, what kind of a pressure he was going through, because the subsidiary was in question, all the good work we had done in building brand Cadbury's over the years, everything was under question. And we were in a spotlight. I'm sure he was going through one of the worst moments of his life or his working career. And he was absolutely cool and comfortable. So the message I took back that day was, if a leader is so confident about what you're doing and he's so comfortable himself, the message he's trying to pass on is, just go out, do your bit, and leave the rest. And the positivity it created in that entire team for the rest of the 5-6 months that we fought the controversy, and then we got Amitabh Bachchan as a brand ambassador, and everything turned around, and obviously we worked on quality big time. So it was a life-changing moment for me. And I think what we're going through today is and probably will continue for some time till the vaccine comes in and lives to its expectation. I think we'll continue to deal with some amount of uncertainty or a crisis. But the important thing as leaders, more than marketers, I think, is for us to send this positive message down to our teams that all is well. Okay. And I'll just narrate a small, sorry, I'm taking so much time, but I'll narrate another small instance and you can kind of tie the thread back to the story 15 years back. So in India again, so as middle of March or 24th, 25th of March hit this country, so while the COVID situation had been evolving from January till March, but I think as a country, we lived in denial for the first 2-3 months that this is not for me, this is not going to hit us. Our numbers are small. Maybe it's happening in Europe and, and then the West and China, but maybe India is isolated. But that's not true, right? So when the COVID crisis hit India in 23rd, 24th, when the government announced the first lockdown, I think it was a moment of reckoning for all of us that this is happening to us and we need to kind of find a way to cope with it. And again, there was a leadership lesson that came my way. And our promoter, CEO, we call him the CMO, Mr. Krishna Sriram, who's the son of Siddharth Sriram, and he operates as executive director for all the 3 companies in the group, Usha, Mawana Sugars Limited, and Mawana Foods. He sent out a beautiful video, and it's a song by Bob Marley. I'm sure all of you have heard it. Don't worry, be happy. So this is again a very, very subtle and a very, very good message to send out to the whole organization that we believe in you. So this is the time, whether it was 15 years back or today, I think the message that comes through in both these messages coming from leaders is that don't worry, be happy, we are with you. You are our extended family, and we'll work together and sort this out and work through it as a family together. I think these are very, very important messages. So more than the crisis, more than the new normal, the amount of uncertainty that all of us are dealing with every day, every living moment, whether it's at a personal front or a professional front, jobs are being lost, things are going wrong in terms of launches, in terms of channels, in terms of positioning, strategy, whatever. But the most important thing is, as leaders, for us to reinforce to our fellow associates, our people in our organization, is that all is well. Do your bit, and we are with you, and we'll work this through together. So I think that's just the context I wanted to set to this panel discussion. And with this, I'll start with our fellow panelists. I'll start with ladies first. So I would urge Priya to give her views on how they in the insurance sector. She's smiling because their business is booming. But Priya, over to you in terms of how you are handling this in terms of your customers and
Sure. Thank you. And, indeed a great pleasure. Thanks to the KIIT management and the entire co-panelists. Great pleasure to interact with such a large audience and thereby helping and creating an impact. So talking about consumers, and as you rightly mentioned, Rajneesh, yes, of course, it's booming time for health and health insurance. But it was not like this when we were hit with COVID in the month of April. We had the highest tanking of our numbers, and we didn't know what was happening. And, it struck all of us in India and abroad, globally as well, out of nowhere, so to say. As leaders and as business operators, we are obsessed with this thought process that we have a plan A, and if plan A doesn't work, we have a plan B and a plan C. And, there are so many alphabets till Z, and we can really keep going. But unfortunately, COVID has really taught us that no plan is good enough, because it has really appended not only one particular geography or a segment or a social segment, so to say. It's really cut through all paradigms of businesses and people, the way we work, the way we socialize, the way we engage, and of course, the way we buy. So it has really taught us that old ways are not going to work, and it opened up doors, so to say, of opportunities as well as immense, challenges in front of us. And all of us are consumers, right? I mean, consumers at the end of the day went through those tectonic shifts of first being in denial mode, as one of the co-panelists or other earlier speaker was mentioning, then into a panic mode, then adaptation, and now we are in the phase of recovery, so to say, as a country and as planet Earth. Now, having said that, we also went through those challenges, and no one was interested in going out. And technically speaking, health insurance, I represent the health insurance segment and healthcare, so to say, which is the highest impacted side of the element of what is happening today from a livelihood versus lives challenge that we faced because of this pandemic. So initially we had this selling model of face-to-face selling, advisors selling, corporate agents selling, and suddenly overnight, we kind of, as a country, as the whole world, we underestimated the impact, and we thought we have BCP plans. If one doesn't work, we will have other options. Now, unfortunately, overnight, we had this snapping out and lockdown being called out. Fortunately, as a company and as an industry, we were preparing and planning of really shifting gears and moving into digital sales and so on and so forth. But talking really, and focusing on our consumers, given the mindset that we went through as a country and as humanity, so to say, people realize that brands, the center stage for brands is not about really going out there and trying and making exploitative, kind of statements and trying and using this opportunity. So consumers really wanted brands to be there, attack the crisis and not really be abrasive on the consumers. At the same time, being practical and helping them on a day-to-day basis. So we had so many, companies coming together, trying and fighting against the virus, and specifically talking about our industry, that is health insurance. We came together in awareness campaigns. So, for example, Manipal Cigna, as a health insurance company, we launched an awareness campaign of how to take care of your health, the near and dear ones, how it is important to really wear a mask and thereby stop spread of the pandemic, in the first place. So from a consumer standpoint, the key themes were being compassionate and optimistic. I would like to mention in the month of, I think, June, there was a word cloud that was put up with by one of the top 5 consulting firms about India and the top emotions that are running in the minds of Indians. There was some consumer study that was done, and we had lots of, statements coming in like, panic, lockdown, there's a lot of challenge and fear. Amidst all of that, one of the biggest element that was, popping out was hope and, being optimistic and being very positive that we are going to fight it together as human beings and come out of this crisis state. So I guess the key themes really for marketeers, specifically not only in insurance, but across the board, was about being compassionate and optimistic, being, adopting the customer, meeting the customers online, because initially for the first 60 to 90 days, there was a complete freeze, including in our business. As I said, we had a minus 40% of volume drop that we observed. And, slowly and gradually people started understanding how important it is to get protection, financial protection, while taking care of their healthcare needs. And that's where we started seeing, slowly and gradually a pull factor for health insurance. And, having said that, it was about not only focusing on short-term equity, but long-term, wellness and, keeping customers at the focus of it. So discussions and doing things, discounted offerings from a wellness and that perspective, adapting to the new normal by meeting the customers where they are often spending maximum time in the current lockdown. So, trends that were observed were every business is a health business, immunity being the new national anthem, doing activities which are trust multiplier, kind of momentum. And of course, from a health insurance perspective, we did a lot of stuff like waiving of co-payment for the senior citizens, launching doctor on call helpline, because, in this current situation, it was not only about the physical health and well-being. The mental health had taken a toll, and of course, we are still recovering, as we all would admit and acknowledge. But the well-being, social well-being, mental well-being, and physical well-being. From that context, we launched, free of charge, completely free, at no extra charge for our consumers, a helpline 24/7 for physical wellness and social wellness and mental health and well-being. Waiving of 60 years and above, waiving of co-payment charges in case of COVID, and couple of other features and new products that were launched by the industry. Apart from that, we also simplified the entire process of claiming, because as it is, we know health insurance, people don't trust health insurers. People believe that you've taken my premium, when the time comes for me to claim, you're not going to pay my claim. So now was the time for going all out from a marketing perspective, from a brand perspective, going out and telling the consumers that our products cover COVID and any other complications out of COVID. If you have a challenge, do not even have a second thought. Please reach out to me. We are going to be there for you. So as an industry, we really, drove that kind of an impact and awareness. So I think that's pretty much about, from a consumer focus standpoint. And of course, the regulator was very active. We came up with, top 2 products for COVID, very, very marginal economic pricing point, no complicated fancy jazz, simple COVID product, either a fixed benefit of cashback if in case you have a COVID sufferance, or maybe an indemnity hospitalization claim. So net, the regulator played a role, government and healthcare bodies played a role. Of course, a front end warriors, which is the healthcare providers, they were really bearing it out and really, being very, very brave in taking it heads on. And multiple healthcare workers in hospitals and support staff were infected, but the waging of war against COVID went on. So as an industry, healthcare and health insurance, I think we've done a fairly good job, and feels very, very proud that we've done well as a country compared to some of the developed, geographies that we hear about, how it collapsed from a healthcare perspective is what I would say.
Very interesting, Priya. Very, very interesting, and really nice to see. I think while I hear you say being compassionate, building on hope, trust multipliers, the government and the regulatory bodies coming out and making simple plans for people to come up, get simple COVID solutions. But I think the most important thing here is that at times like this, the industry just comes together. So while you might be competing with their respective products in the market, but when the industry comes together and starts fighting for a common cause, I think we leave a very, very different message out to the market that, it's not about profitability at these times. It's about coming together and giving simple solutions to the market for their problems that they might be dealing with.
If I can take 30 seconds more, Rajneesh. Basically, as per insurance, non-medical expenses like gloves, food, and couple of other items are not payable. And when it came to COVID, of course, the front end, healthcare workers and our doctors had to protect themselves with a lot of PPE kits, which is personal protection equipments, and that was really very expensive, and it brought up our claims expenses by around 30% as an industry. And initially, some insurers were rejecting it. So we all came together as industry experts. We came together and we counseled each other that this is pandemic. We really have to come together and build trust for our consumers. We can't have our doctors getting infected, our nurses getting infected. In this extraordinary time, we have to pay these and take a little bit of stretch on our bottom line or possibly on our total expense, margin, and show solidarity for the country and for people who are waging it. I mean, we're sitting behind the desk, right? We're processing claims behind the desk, but people who are on the ground fighting each day, the doctors, and of course, we also launched insurance specifically for the doctors as well as a country. So that is again another big one from the industry perspective.
Great. Very, very interesting insights from the insurance sector. We'll come back to you for more, but moving on to, I think, a more direct consumer product category. So Sanjit, over to you. How did you handle this from a consumer standpoint, and how did you see consumer behaviors change in these new normal times?
Hey, thanks, Rajneesh. And first of all, thanks for having me here. Great to be in this panel, and hopefully we'll have some interesting discussion going forward. Okay, so let me first start by saying last 10 years have been very, very interesting. In fact, last 10 years, whatever we have learned, probably we wouldn't have learned in the past 50 years. I'll give you a sequence of events just to set things perspective. Most of us would have forgotten, or probably it's not very important now, that we had a demonetization which created havoc at that point in time. And just a year down in 2017, we implemented GST, which is very good for the country, but the transition was really rough. So from a business stand, and now we have the pandemic. So from 2016 to 2020, we are talking about 3 big events, not only from specific industry standpoint are big ones, but also from an economy standpoint, from a country standpoint, we have gone through the toughest of times. So I think from credit to the industries and the professionals who are there, we know how to manage this kind of a situation. So the consumers know how to handle it, we professionals know, and probably the companies know. So the hope that you guys are talking about is not ill-placed at all. We know how to deal with it, and I'm sure we'll deal with it. With that background, maybe, I don't know whether I'll disappoint some of you, but let me start by saying this. I really don't know how the consumer behavior is going to change so significantly and in the post-pandemic world. Let me give a bit of a context. I know I'm asking something which is very debatable. So I'm putting this into 3 separate phases. 1, pandemic and lockdown. Remember, that's the first phase. There was a bit of a pandemic. Some of us understood, some of us didn't understand. We thought it is early, some of us thought we are late, but the lockdown, a lot of consumer behavior was more or less forced rather than by choice. So you had to be at home, you could not go out of your home, right? So on and so forth. So that, to me, that's phase 1 that we got to look at. And some of the behaviors, like I earlier talked about, staying at home and doing certain things or not being able to do something, is a forced behavior that we got to look at from that standpoint. And I'm just talking about consumer behavior. I'm not talking about the supply side of it. I'm just staying on with the demand side of it. We'll cover supply side as we go along. The second part is when the lockdowns are lifted, like let's say right now, though there is some form of lockdown which is still there, but largely it is kind of free, right? But the pandemic exists. Yes, we are hearing about a vaccine, but we don't know when and how. So the behavior now is interesting, right? The other day, I was there in the market. I'm in Bangalore, and so the pani puri wala is back, and there are people who are standing eating food. So if that was the first and most important thing that you thought the behavior would change, there you go. You say it, right? Second, I went to a mall hoping that I'll have an easy time in a weekday, right? No way. It was as crowded as it used to be. And I'm talking about Bangalore, which has seen quite a few cases in the past, and it's not yet trouble-free, right? So some of the behaviors we got to, so that's phase 2, and I'll elaborate it a little more as I come back. The third phase is, when the vaccine comes in, and or, as UK government was saying that, they were taking a risk of saying that, you'll have the herd immunity, and the herd immunity is basically nothing. Allow 30%, 40% of your people get infected. Rest of us are, rest of the population is okay. So they couldn't take that risk, and for good reason. So either that happens or the vaccine comes in. Then what kind of behavior would continue to exist? So from a long-term standpoint, for us marketers, we got to look at that from a effect standpoint, effect of the pandemic. So I would discuss 2 things. One, what happens now, or what are the behaviors that we are seeing? And some of it possibly, in my mind, would stay on and we got to look at them, because going forward, what is behind us is behind us. Yes, we have seen some of it during demonetization, GST, and we saw this. I'm sure we'll be able to handle it when it comes the next time around, something else or the same thing. But what stays on and what would be relevant for us as we go along would be interesting for us to look at. Okay, so one of the things that, the segmentation now, all of you would have studied segmentation by now, I'm sure. So interesting now. I'm sure you wouldn't have heard about it. Now the industry experts are talking about it, especially in the consumer industry. So they're saying there are a group of people who are now, given the background of COVID and all that, who are kind of paranoid about it, right? So these are the guys, when you go to their place, the first thing that you need to do is they'll give you a sanitizer bottle. You got to take care of your hands, and they'll give you a mask if you are not wearing one, and they will allow you to get into their place. And probably twice every day, they clean every doorknobs and take care. All that is happening. So and there is a substantial number of people who are that type. So a lot of things that Priya talked about, this would be their bullseye consumers, right? So people who are absolutely convinced that they need to do the right set of things to take care of this threat, which is there for them or their families or near and dear ones. So that's one thing. How much of it will stay? Will come back. I said I'll talk about first what's the situation today, right? So these are the paranoid segment. No age barrier, no economy barrier. Yeah, a bit of rural-urban divide is there. Rural, largely rural has not been as impacted as urban is. COVID standpoint, it has hit them as hard as it hit the urban. But from a reaction standpoint, newspaper, media standpoint, it's largely free. The lockdown also, in many cases, has been a matter of choice rather than enforced. So I'll leave rural India aside for a minute, but that's very interesting. Probably some of our panelists will catch that. The second group, so that's the paranoid group. The second group are the pragmatic ones. These people understand that the threat is real, and it's important that we keep ourselves safe. But they would protest when there is a traffic rule that even when you are driving alone, you got to wear a mask. That's what we have in many places in the country, right? Even when I'm driving inside my car, fully protected, the law is that we need to wear a mask today. So they will take measures as they think appropriate, but probably not as paranoid, as critical. They don't see it as seriously as the paranoid group is. So that's the pragmatic one. Quite a few, percentage of the population today is that one. It'll be interesting because some of the consumers are moving from paranoid to pragmatic as we go along. The third group, as I call them, and some of the things that I'm hearing about, let me call them bindas types. These guys they think it's still not real. They still think it's something like some fever or cough or whatever. It's like the regular bukhar types, right? So these are bindas types, and I'll give you some example. One of the things that I was hearing some expert talking about, and I'll quote her while I'm saying this. She was saying, there was a queue in front of a store, and with proper social distancing and all that, and it is a ration shop. So people got to stand in a queue and wait for your turn and take it. So people put their chappals there in those squares, and they were sitting on the side and chit-chatting, right? So that's the bindas behavior for you. The second kind of bindas behavior that you see is that a lot of masks are being worn not to protect the people or yourself by wearing it on your face or the nose, but it's hanging by your throat as if it's something to take care of your throat, right? But these are people, and they're in the public and they're talking to other people, and so these are people, I call them as bindas people. So if you are a marketer, you got to understand who is your TG out of paranoid, pragmatic, and bindas, and see what kind of value that you have for them. So that's for the present. And very interesting because there are some, and it's very important for us at the present time to understand what kind of a mindset that our TG has, target group consumers have, and hence what should the communication be, what the tone and tenor of your approach should be. Okay, let me talk about, so going forward, what are the behaviors? So I'll focus on consumer behavior that according to me would stay, okay? So in my mind, there are 4 or 5 things which are important for us to look at, which in my mind would stay. Some of it was already there. This kind of a situation has accelerated it to an extent, but this was there. But yes, thanks to the pandemic, it's very visible and taking obviously a massive kind of a step forward. So let me start with what Priya touched upon, the hygiene part of it, right? So it is not only about immunity and how do I protect myself and my family in the event of something bad happens. It's also about day-to-day hygiene requirement. And it's, yes, one of the obvious ones are the mask and the sanitizer and the soap and all that. But also it is a little layered. It is going into cleaning every nooks and corners of your houses, and that's where one of our products plays a role. That's very interesting. That's something which we think would continue to stay. The second part of hygiene is what I will talk about is immunity, which is not only in the food that we eat, but the behavior that we the kind of choices that we make. So even when there is a pandemic and many of us are sitting at home, you'll be surprised the number of people who are trying to stay active. It's surprising in India that those many people are spending some time to stay active even when they're indoors. And this is that aspect, that mindset that I'm talking about. In my mind, that's going to stay. So if whatever is relevant for your segment or whatever is relevant for your product is something that you got to look at from that lens. The second one, massive, digital, massive. And I'm not talking about only e-commerce. Obviously, that has grown leaps and bounds. But I'm also talking about things like, I don't know how many of you, the students would have heard about omni-commerce. It's a physical store having its online presence so that the consumers can buy the same stuff from their e-commerce channel as well. So we in the industry call it omni-channel. So that's got a massive boost. Mind you, it is still, as a percentage terms, it is still very small from a percentage standpoint to the overall business. But that's going to go north from here, according to me. So that's the other piece that you got to look at from a digital standpoint. Another funny thing that the other day I got a WhatsApp message. Now a lot of things we know or we get a feeling through WhatsApp notes. Times have changed, digital, right? Okay, so this picture was a beggar hanging a board with the Paytm UPI thing on it. I don't know whether it is true or not, but interesting, right? Because interesting, the consumer's insight that this beggar would have done would be interesting because he knows he stands in a traffic jam where people stay in only for probably 30 seconds to a 2-minute kind of a period. And by the time, how many times you would have felt like giving something, but you didn't have any change, readily available, hence you let go, right? So probably that guy understood it. So now he has a barcode saying that you can scan it and pay me whatever you want to, 10 rupees, 15 rupees, 20 rupees. Second, he knows that if you do that, you would not give him that 50 paisa or 1 rupee or 2 rupees, right? So that's interesting. And while I'm saying this, it's a WhatsApp forward, but go to a sabjiwala today, go to your barber shop today, go to any small vendor who wouldn't have heard about digital earlier, is proudly displaying this kind of a mode of payment. And that's going to stay. That's going to stay and go bigger. The other thing that I would like to highlight is the home entertainment, right? Who would have thought the Netflixes of the world and you have the Disney and all these guys would have got into or got that kind of a penetration in such a short period of time. So the Indian consumers are so much into this SaaS Bahuj and all. These guys figured out the only way by which we can keep these guys entertained is by reaching home with content which is relevant for them. So these are some of the examples that I had from a digital standpoint that we got to look at as we go along. The third thing, third behavior, which I think is going to stay, is do it yourself, right? A lot of us in the urban areas were happily outsourcing a lot of our work to the buys, to the drivers, to whatever help that we have had. There was a time that none of us, and money did not matter. It did not matter how rich you are or how poor you are. They would just not come. Initially, the government didn't want them to come because of the lockdown. And after that, they were unwilling to come to in most of the places. And in many places, the housing societies would not allow them to get in. So all of us learned to do things ourselves that we never did before. Some of my friends sent pictures saying that, hey, you had this product we never knew, and this product existed for 15 years at least. So I knew, then I wrote back saying that, no, the product existed. You never did the job that you are doing now. So that's why you didn't see the product. I'm talking about some of the Scotch Brite product ranges that we have had, right? So that's something that's going to stay, the DIY behavior. And people are at home, so home has a little more meaning, either because you are there or through Zoom call or whatever your part of your house is being seen and all that. So that's something which is going to stay, which is very, very important. And probably India as a country would swiftly move from here on, from a do it for me kind of a market to do it yourself. I think this is a critical change that we are going through at this point in time, which will stay. The last thing, and some of the panelists,
very interesting. Yeah, very interesting, very, very interesting consumer insights. My just request is that we have 2 more people to go, and then we want to throw the floor open to students. So if you could quickly wrap up, it will be a good thing for us. So, but very interesting insight. Go on. Sorry, I don't want to break your flow. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely okay. I didn't realize that I took as long. Okay, so the last comment. So I think some of you talked about it. It's the I think one of the good thing which has happened from a consumer standpoint is empathy and trust. I think that's something all of us have developed through the pandemic, and that's something the marketeers need to take notice. Okay, so that's all I had. Rajnish, back to you.
Very, very, very interesting consumer insights. Very good to hear from you, Sanjay. And I really like the example of the beggar having the Paytm thing. And interestingly, I can share a similar one with you. So I used to go to a Bhel Puri wala, and a guy we have been regular with for like probably 2 decades now. And in the middle of the pandemic with lockdown, unlock 4 or 5 happening, I don't know exactly when, I get a WhatsApp message from him where there's a YouTube video he's created with somebody interviewing him and showing how great his Bhel Puri is, and it's brilliant. So I think everybody is using digital, and I was amazed at the fact that a Bhel Puri could come up with a digital thing and saying that we are open now, come visit us. Yeah. So excellent. Thank you so much. And without taking much time, I think I'll move to Alvin. Alvin, you are coming from a very, very different industry, and it'll be interesting to hear. Students will be happy to hear what a student portal has to say. And my request is if you could summarize your points in 10 minutes. Sorry, the first 3 of us have taken a lot of time, and Rajiv's inputs will be very valuable at the end because he has a whole wealth of experience to share, I'm sure. So over to you, Alvin. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. So with this whole pandemic, I think there are certain things that has fundamentally changed. I think we have touched upon quite a few of them. One is the fact that, yes, a lot of things are going to go DIY, as he has mentioned, because people now have the ability to do things on their own. But sort of, and then sort of, we spoke about how trust has to be rebuilt. But for these students, I have I want to focus on only 2 things that might be very useful for their career. One of the number 1 things that has really come up during this pandemic is the true value of education now has suddenly been questioned. In the last 6 years, whatever EduTech has not been able to do has happened in the last 6 months. Close to 250 odd MBA courses have been launched online, and this was never going to happen, at the current pace. Thanks to the pandemic, all MBA programs are now available online. Students, while they are currently attending so-called institutions, well, they are anyway attending from home. So we don't really know if this is an offline MBA or an online MBA right now. You sort of are getting educated anyway via Zoom. And this was not supposed to happen this fast. And this has sort of caught an entire set of industry unaware. And mostly it has been educational, right? I mean, education industries have historically thrived on the fact that they have access to limiting 120 odd students into a room, and there's a lot of prestige attached to getting into an institution. And now what most of these online programs are saying is, hey, listen, we can take 12,000 students and they are extremely high quality and we are phenomenal teachers. We are the world's best teachers coming on. And what the students need to learn from is that certain industries will get disaggregated. This is something that was going to take a long time, but well, thanks to the pandemic, it's happened in record time. You're going to now see a future where the best teachers will be online, not offline. The best teachers do not want to teach 120 students or 240 students or 360 students. The best teachers will want to be teaching 10,000 students or 20,000 students. And that level of disaggregation is already happening via portals like Unacademy. We are sort of seeing they're paying some of the best teachers 3 to 5 crores a year so that they can teach online. This sort of world did not exist last year. So going forward in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see a significant disruption in education. But what you need to sort of keep in mind is that this disruption is happening for a very simple theory. The reason being, hey, listen, during the pandemic, before the pandemic, we simply believed that all of this value could be delivered and captured only in a classroom. The pandemic has proven that thesis completely wrong. And since it has proven that wrong, this is possible. We are today having 5 of us here from extremely different cities. Had this been a regular day, each of us would be catching a flight and sort of, our entire day would be lost. So, nowadays people are doing Zoom meetings mostly in boxer shorts, with respect of whatever they're wearing on top, I'm reasonably assured by my team and everybody else that, underneath, well, there's not much. But that is the new normal that we live in. People, when they are now preparing for a meeting, just walk into the next room, pick up a, jacket, and they're like, I'm all set. And right after that, they're sort of mopping the floors, coming to the DIY side of it. So we live in a world which is sort of fundamentally shifted. Is it going to go back completely? I don't think so. Certain industries, definitely not. Some places, I think there's going to be a little bit of elasticity to go back. So coming to education, students now will suddenly realize that maybe their degrees are not going to be as valuable. Very simply because I think degrees themselves will not be extremely valuable over the next 5 years. So this pandemic is going to fundamentally shift that. You're going to have students who will be asked to truly demonstrate their capabilities in some way or form, and just signaling via the fact that you have a degree, I think those days are very soon going to come to an end. Because even right now, when we are recruiting, we are in a luxury. We can sort of afford to really dig deep into people and say, hey, listen, if those skills are not there, we don't want to hire. Secondly, we don't have any constraints of offices anymore, right? I mean, we sort of shut down 2 of our offices and, well, things are still normal. Very simply, our head of sales at some point said, listen, I want to move to a different city because there's too much time traveling. And he moved to a different city and we realized, well, nothing has changed. Our business is still growing. And so all of the thoughts that we sort of held very closely that, culture is important, office, maybe have to meet people, else there is no serendipity. Each of those things have been challenged. And I think companies which are able to take advantage of all of that and realize this is a good time to make all of those fundamental changes, those are the companies that are sort of going to significantly thrive. Coming to how this affects people, for example, another fascinating point was about vegetable guys and beggars having Paytm. That is absolutely true. And this was again possible thanks to UPI and disaggregating banks. Today, you can send money to somebody without knowing their bank account. And fascinatingly, the banks were against it because they were extremely concerned about losing, well, their customer. Today, UPI has disaggregated that. So please understand that once certain industries do get disaggregated, quite like education, quite like fintech, it's never going to come back again. And that sort of allows you a phenomenal set of opportunities for students to think about, newer products, the way marketing sort of dramatically changes. Because now you could be solving far more useful problems. I think one of the fundamental tenets of marketing, and sort of I've generally seen in business schools, is that people feel that the message is important. However, a customer never pays for something that does not solve a problem for him. And I think this is something that sort of, whenever I've interacted with students, I've gotten a sense that I am good at creativity, so I am going to go do an MBA in marketing. And that's sort of the wrong, and I've generally noticed that a lot of creative people sort of gravitate towards marketing. However, what is more important is how much do you care and love the customer? Do you really understand the customer? And if you really understand the customer, hey, by the way, do you really even understand what kind of problem you're solving for him? And it's only those extremely empathetic set of individuals, in my experience, who sort of are able to see what is this product and does it really solve a problem? And do I really understand the customer's needs and desires? So the best marketer would be a person who understands the needs and desires of the customer and also says, hey, listen, this is the problem. And I am going to be able to tell you exactly how this product solves some of your needs and some of your problems and desires. And this is the key problem it's out there to solve. And this is something that as a skill, every marketer needs to sort of get it fundamentally right. It's amazing that most of the students generally tend to think about it as messaging. But if you do not believe in the product, you do not understand end to end, I don't think you can ever be a great marketer. So for me, I think this entire period of COVID has sort of brought in the fact that certain industries are completely getting disaggregated. The ability to understand and market and execute well, I think it is still lacking because I think it's still not a holistic, complete view of how to take a product to market. And third, when the industries are fundamentally changing, I think students have this phenomenal ability to see the future way better than older people can. I don't think anybody above the age of 40 is going to be on Snapchat or
very, very
build an
interesting,
app, right? It just does not work that way. So I think students are going to see far more patterns, and it would be really helpful for large companies to sort of train the students on fundamentals, but listen to the students about what the future is going to be. And I think it's a combination of those two skills that would be required sort of to keep the best of the companies running. So those are sort of the three things I wanted to sort of chat
Very
about.
interesting, Elvin. Very, very interesting insights from an educational portal or .com company, so to say. So very interesting insights. And yeah, I completely agree with you somewhere that, students and companies both will have to kind of adapt in a way to the new normal. In fact, interestingly, I can just share with you a lot of companies, what they are doing today, instead of giving PPOs or pre-placement offers, so to speak, what they're doing today is saying that, look, you're anywhere at home. We wanted to give you an offer. So why don't you work on this project for the next couple of months? So given that there is now more time, there's no urgency because companies are already adequately staffed and they want to take care of their existing employees more than they get, more than being in a hurry to get new ones in. So they're saying, give new students or potential employees projects to work on, give them a stipend to come in. Maybe it will not be an equivalent of a salary, but it will be at least 50% or 70% or a percentage of what he was potentially supposed to get him going. So we need to understand, get an opportunity to work with each other on a project basis. And if it works out well and the guy is able to prove his worth, he comes on board logically. As for example, for most of us, Q2 was better than Q1 and Q3 has been better than the first 2 quarters. Also, industry numbers are showing that the economy is bouncing back to break even or a positive trajectory. So I think it's time for this new normal way of working, and all of us as students or companies have to adapt to the situation. Having said that, I think we'll quickly go to Rajiv. Rajiv, I'm really sorry we kept you waiting this long, but I wanted to save the best for the last. Please go ahead and share your views on how you in your industry, which is a very dairy and fresh, how are you handling with the pandemic, and how does your consumer behave as we speak?
Lovely, thank you. So one of the most repeated, oft-repeated questions of the year, am I audible? Yes, thank you.
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you. So I will try and sum up very quickly, Rajneesh, so that we leave some time for you to conclude in the end. All right. So industry is crippled, economic sectors coming to a standstill, retail closures, 25% of the GDP shaved off. I really honestly don't thank COVID for anything. There will be such disasters, and we don't glorify disasters. There were many industries that did well after the World War II, but these are very, very heavy prices to pay. Netflix was already there. It would have taken 1 year to do what it has done in 1 month, but I think that pace was okay. We paid a very, very heavy price for Netflix's market share. So I don't thank COVID for anything. That is my first submission. Now there are so many students here, and there are so many people here. So pleasantries first. Thank you very much for having me here. Stellar panel. I am very, very honored. In the midst of all of this, while the boys and girls are in their 20s, my son's age approximately, they think dairy is not sexy, but we were the ones who were working while the entire country was locked down. Essential services, milk has to reach the consumer, from the farmer to the consumer's table. So 9 out of 10 of my meetings over the last 8 months were offline meetings, like the way it happened in life, like the way it happened in normal. Yes, I did have at least 2 webinars like this every week for the last 8 months. So 64 of them were definitely online. That is true. So in the midst of all this, we haven't been able to shut down any of our offices. We haven't been able to shut down any of our factories, and I thank God for that. So we were working all this while. What did we do? We did 3 things. First is safety of our people, paramount, no compromise. Mask, hand wash, and yes, Sanjeev, I would err on the side of caution and be paranoid about it rather than take a chance with my people, because there was a time when there was so much of confusion around. One factory worker contracting the disease would result in the entire factory being closed down, and what it can cause, I'll come in a minute. So I would rather err on the side of caution at this time. 10,000 people, employees, 400,000 farmers, no chance can be taken. So safety of people, continuity of business. This pandemic, this disaster has come, it will live its life and it will go. But business will go on, life will go on. So continuity of business from the farmer to the consumer. If that chain is broken, it would have taken a huge lot of effort to set it back, to sort it out. So that was our activity number 2. Third is availability to our customers. Who are our customers? In Delhi, we have essentially 2 segments of customer. One is a direct consumer, like she has to get milk at 7 a.m. in the morning, and if she doesn't get it, she will be paranoid with all good reasons. So that is my consumer. And then I have customers who are ingredient buyers, the pizza sellers. They buy cheese from me. The chocolate makers, Mondelez and Cadbury's, which Rajneesh is very much aware of, they buy powder from me. The cookie makers, Britannia's of the world, they buy powder from me. So these are ingredient buyers, and some of them are also in essential services. So availability was my third most important concern: safety, continuity, and availability. These are the 3 things we ensured. Now we have possibly and hopefully we have done well in surviving this pandemic. Now, how do I see the new normal and the consumer behavior changing? It is all that what you have said very, very eloquently and nicely. I would like to put it, all that you said, in 4 baskets. So this is my segment number 2. I will talk, my talk will be in 3 segments. 1, what we have done, which is over. 2, how is it changing? 4 baskets. 1 is there is a basket reset, which means is what will you buy? There have been normals and new normals and changes in consumer behavior in the past because of, as you said, demonetization, GST, and I would even take you beyond further than that. 1991 was a watershed year in the Indian economy where the patterns changed, behavior changed. So all that have happened in the past, but now it is driven by health and hygiene. The change that is there in the mindset is health driven, more of health driven, or more of security driven, where insurance come to play. So one is a basket reset that I see. Number two is something which the consultants and people want to, marketers want to call the home body reset, which is whatever I consume, where do I consume? Like, would I watch a movie at home? Would I order my pizza at home, or would I go out and consume? We know the answer. I'm not giving answers here. So there is a reset, basket reset, home body reset. Number three is a rational reset. That is, why will I purchase what I purchase? I cannot travel abroad now. So if I have a disposable money with me, why will I do what I do? So that's a rational reset. Number four is an affordability reset. As I said, there are 2 billion people all over the world who are impacted, mostly informal sector workers. 2 billion people impacted is not a joke. That is much more than the population of India. So the second part of my pitch was the new normal: basket reset, home body reset, rational reset, and affordability reset. I'm breaking it into segments because I know the audience comprises of students, and it is easier for them to understand when I break down my pitch into some parts. The third part and the concluding part of my pitch is, we have always had normals and new normals. I agree. This is of a very, very distinctive and big importance. But let's say IPL is the new normal for cricket. Okay, or even things like, since Rajneesh is here, the market expansion of Cadbury's, when Cadbury's was supposed to be a child's snack. And if I am a 40-year-old, now I'm 50 plus, so if I am a 40-year-old person, to be seen with a Cadbury's bar is something that you don't want to, because you want to be seen with a Charminar cigarette, not with Cadbury's. So that entire concept got changed when that, that girlfriend of a cricketer runs down the pitch and gets into the cricket field, or the old couple, they start dancing in the rain, and khane wale ko bahana chahiye. I have no brief for Cadbury's. There is no sales pitch here, but I'm saying there have been new normals. 1991, according to me, has been a new normal. But all this while, pre-COVID, post-COVID, Indians, we love to be in denial. And what I'm saying, a big testimonial to that is the penetration of insurance, be it general insurance or life insurance, such poor penetration, or let's say the market share of health industry, meaning the gym and those yoga kind of units, the penetration is so low, which means that something that can happen to my neighbor, it cannot happen to me. So we have always lived in denial. So one thing that possibly COVID has done is, we must and we possibly are coming out of a denial state of mind, which is what this has done. The last thing, what have we learned from COVID, from the pandemic? To my mind, whatever may you talk of 9% growth, or you debate whether it is 7 or 6 now, or it could be 10 or 15 earlier, and how much do you need to double farmers' income, and how much do you need to be a 5 trillion economy in so many years? But if you have not invested in social infrastructure, which is health and education, no matter how much growth you achieve, it doesn't help. So this is my pitch, Rajneesh. Over to you. So what we have done as dairy, what is the new normal that I think of, and third, that we have lived in denial, we must come out of denial, and fourth, what is my single takeaway from the pandemic? Thank you very much.
Great, Rajiv. Very, very short, crisp, but well thought through and talked about points all around consumer, firm, and society, how you in Lactalis have dealt with the pandemic and taken care of your employees. While we are almost running out of time, we have a few interesting questions that have been thrown by the students. I'll quickly summarize in a minute and then share some of these interesting questions with you. So from my standpoint, I would say we heard from all the panelists, there is a need to adjust to the current situation from a consumer standpoint, which most of us are doing in our own respective ways. In terms of firms and how we have reacted to society, a lot of us touched upon it in our own ways. I'll share about how we have done in our respective, in my company. So we have a sugar plant which has a byproduct which goes into the alcohol industry as ethanol, and I'm sure all of you know ethanol. So we had an opportunity to make sanitizers, okay? And one of the calls that we took as a social enterprise was that we will give these sanitizers free to the government. So we did not, while a lot of people today in the market have looked at as an opportunity to commercialize a new sanitizer product, and you see suddenly so many brands in the market. So we as a social enterprise in the Siddharth Shriram group took a cautious call that this is not the time to see a market opportunity to make money. So we gave a lot of free samples to the government through the public distribution system, where we said, let them get the 5 liter or whatever packs, bulk packs of sanitizers, and let it get free distributed wherever it can. So predominantly going to the frontline warriors, to hospitals and all those places where people cannot go out and just buy a sanitizer. So this is what we did. We thought this is a right thing to do, a good thing to do, and as a social enterprise, we must do it. The other thing we did from our organization standpoint, or what I did was, and I'm sure all of us are playing these roles right now. So most of us, while we are wearing CEO or business head or managing director hats, we are playing quasi HR manager role as well. Like Rajiv said, we have to take care of our people, and if he has to be, or if we have to be paranoid about their safety, we better be. So we did distribute free masks and sanitizers to all our employees. But what I did was a small initiative what we took in our company. We set up a war room, and like Rajiv was saying, we do regular WhatsApp calls with the leadership team twice a week on a fixed basis. But as and when there's a need, we just come together. We set up a war room on WhatsApp, and as soon as anybody pings there's a crisis, everybody jumps into a Zoom call and we address the situation. So that's what we did. But from an HR standpoint, we rolled out a small program for all our employees called HERE. Okay. H stands for being humble. We said, let's be humble. We might have had a very different tone to our employees as sales head or business heads. Okay, why is business not happening? Why are things not getting done? But this is not the time to be aggressive and demanding. Let's be humble. Yeah. So humble, H. A stands for let's be, E stands for let's be empathetic. And I think Sanjay and a lot of people talked about this. It's time for empathy rather than, so yesterday we could question an employee, why is the particular thing not done? But today we are more understanding, and I'm sure all of you can relate to it. We ask questions like, why do you think you're struggling with this? Is there anything that we can do as an organization or as a business leader to simplify things for you, or make any help that we can get to you, which will make your life a little simpler and your ability to do or turn around things better? So HE, A stands for being agile. So we said, let's react to the situation really quickly. So for example, e-commerce as a channel just took off, and we had to adapt to how we can service e-commerce and all channels, sugar and edible oil, which is again, not as essential as milk, of course, but it is essential commodity. So we wanted the last mile to be taken care of. So we wanted to be agile and give quick solutions to any problem that we could address. And most importantly was the 4, which is R, which is reflect. So one of the things that I did with my leadership team every week, and now it's become like the DNA of the team, is that every weekend we try to, every Friday call at the end, we try to reflect what we did the last 1 week, and how could we have done better, or what can we do differently next week to take care of some of the challenges that we are facing. So this HERE program was a program that I rolled out with my HR head, and it's a simple acronym, but it's again about hearing people and trying to be empathetic and understanding what you can do, because these are not times where, so everybody is dealing there with their own set of challenges, at a personal level. There's a lot of anxiety. Will the pandemic stay or go? A lot of people, like Sanjay, you said, are still in the paranoid state, and some of them might not be wrong, because they might have had an encounter where one of their loved ones might have had a very, very difficult situation to deal with if infected with COVID. So I think it's time to be real. It's time to understand each other in terms of how we can collaborate and work as a family. And those are the companies I think we are all part of, and we are proud of being part of our respective companies that are dealing with the pandemic better. And we can 8 months down pandemic still be on this Zoom call and talk with a smile, which means probably all is well on our business front. And I will throw the floor open to a couple of interesting questions that came up. I don't know how much time we have. We are just overshooting. Joydeep, do you think we should still take questions, or we should?
Yeah, I think we can take at least 1 or 2 questions at max, because the other panel is waiting. So I think we'll take 1 or 2 questions, whichever you find interesting.
Okay, so one interesting question that, so let me throw these questions at panelists, and whoever wants to take on can jump in. So one of the questions that came in from Ranita was that since, and this is kind of building on Elvin's point, I think, was that since most of the MBA study is today happening online, will the industry look at it as an online course and give it lesser weight than it gave to their fellow colleagues who passed out earlier, or will it give a similar weight? So Sanjay, Rajiv, anybody could take it on.
No, let Alvin answer this, I would say.
So I'm not the right person to answer, because I think it's the industry which is supposed to answer that. However, there is some bad news for you as a student. Your value of an MBA is going to be significantly lesser in the long run. Very simply because companies are going to evolve to a point where they don't necessarily find their best students at an MBA institution. Understand that an MBA institution represents aggregation of good quality talent. However, I think companies will also look for longer engagements. As you've already heard, that they're putting their students through 6 months of work experience. So show us what you're capable of before we sort of take you in. And when that becomes the norm, you will realize that your degree won't really stand up for much. So, and education is always important. Education is always valuable. So use your time at your MBA institute to make sure that you learn well. And secondly, focus on having the skills that are going to be useful in the market. So if you're not going to focus on that, then irrespective of your education, everybody is going to be in trouble.
I think that's a very, very valid point. Anybody else wants to add to it, but or should I?
Okay, if I may,
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, if I may, as the convener, would like to respond to Alvin. So yeah, Alvin. So that's a very, very valid point, and the only point that I wanted to respond to that on was that it's also the onus on educational institutes to evolve to the scenario which you are saying, and have much more industry engagement while the student is on the campus. And a lot of panelists talked about long-term engagements being more important than the degree itself. So I just wanted to cite an example. So at KIIT, we have a 1-year internship program with an IT company called HighRadius. We have a panelist from HighRadius in the second panel, where the student in the 3rd year of engineering starts the internship, and it's almost a year long. And not everybody gets the offer, but the company gets benefited because they have the exposure of the student to entire 1 year. And the students, even if they get the offer or not, they have the exposure of working on live projects for the entire 1 year. And this is all while they are on the campus. So I completely agree with Alvin's point, but I just wanted to make a point that the institutes can also evolve accordingly.
So education
I'll just add
on
to
the
this,
channel.
so very valid
So let's
point,
go to
Joydeep.
one or two other interesting questions if there are. Joydeep can always make his point later.
Let me throw one more question at you. So has pandemic shifted customers from the offline retail environment to the online retail environment? I think this is an easy one. Rajiv, you want to take it?
While there was lockdown, a lot of things moved from offline to online. There was a movement from e-commerce to, from modern trade to e-commerce. You will see a shift back now when people have started moving out of their homes. Suppose, I'll give you an example. Suppose you have ordered a pack of butter. So when the delivery happens, you have to pay attention to that. You have to pick up the stuff and put it in your refrigerator. Now that you have moved out of the house and your wife has moved out of the house and the children have gone to schools and colleges, there is nobody to attend to that delivery. And that pack of butter, if left at your doorstep for the whole day, will be of no use to you. So there will be, shifts back and forth, and everything will have its place. So more, and as you will see in retail, not only modern trade, the local mom and pop store will develop to a great extent, but technology will play a very, very key role. From the entire fulfillment will be technology. Today, people, you'll see in retail, the conversion rate is very high, though the walk-ins have come down, but people who are walking in are buying. And the payment mechanism has changed.
Absolutely.
So the kirana becomes very, very important. And have a heart, boys and girls. Don't give up hope. Be happy. It is going to be omni-channel for everything. What Sanjeet said. You see what Reliance is doing, what a lot of other big people in the world are doing. So it is education is omni-channel, entertainment becomes omni-channel, buying experience becomes omni-channel. Kirana is going to stay, modern trade is going to stay, and e-commerce is going to grow.
So in summary, there is hope for all. Anyway, so
Absolutely.
One more question I will throw. One more question from this came from Omkar, and probably this should be the last question that we take. I think we're already running out of time. So, what is the strategy that companies are adopting in these pandemic times for retaining their existing customers? So, Sanjit, you want to take it?
I think one of the first thing that the companies are doing is to understand the consumer and understand the need and whether the need has changed or remained the same, whether it has evolved. Understanding the consumer need and understanding how she is reacting to the situation is very important. That's the first piece that we are looking at. The second piece that we need to look at, and Rajiv talked about it, is the supply side of it. If she wants a product, she has trust in a brand, how do we make sure that without fail, we reach her? I think these are the two primary things that the companies are doing. And I'm sure, as we go to the post-pandemic world, this is not something which is new. This is going to stay, but it's all the more important now.
So Rajneesh, if I have 30 seconds, what Jaideep mentioned was about more integration with respect to students and jobs. There is a certain level of inefficiency in that as well. In my experience, companies are not currently designed to make the best use of students over a 6-month period. In a lot of experiences, what I've seen is that companies give these students the shitty things that they will not do themselves. So they basically want to give them something that's hands-off and say, "Yaar, ye 6 mahina tu karke aa," and then the student sort of does not really get a chance to see how this sort of fits into the grand scheme of things, because companies don't want to give very important things to people who are working with them only for a 6-month period. Now, this is not necessarily the company's mistake, because they have not evolved to a point, and it is neither the student's mistake. However, I've seen a lot of students who are at the end of 6 months, they feel like, I have no idea what I've done. And sort of, the company sort of took advantage. So I also feel for the students in this pandemic that, it's not completely fair what you're going through, but you're a part of the evolution. So, just stick to it. Companies will get better at it. In sort of understanding you, but you also need to get better at understanding that your school or anybody's school is not going to be the answer to your life's answers. You will have to step out, deliver value. You'll find a job.
Very well said, Elvin. So very, very well said. And I think that's what I would also want to say and wrap up this session, that, while there is hope, like all of us are saying, Rajiv was very buoyant that all channels are evolving. The most important thing as a message that I would want to leave for our student friends here at KIIT University is that you all also need to evolve. Okay. And given that now there is much more time available, you don't have to travel to the college, you are right at your home, you plug the computer on and you're online for a class. So you're not wasting too much time. Though you're not getting bindas time in the canteen and the extracurricular activities, so to say, but that's a new normal, right? But given that there's much more quality time available at your disposal, you should also retrospect and think, reflect, how can I prepare myself better for this new situation? So there are a lot of good pointers that came to all the panelists. Rajiv talked about it, Sanjit talked about it, Priya talked about it, so did Alvin. So I think we need to evolve as individuals to be ready for the new normal in terms of our job opportunities that will walk into us in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months time. And we need to be better ready for the industry, and then industry will obviously grasp you. And since there's hope, business environment is all improving, though days are still gloomy, but we all hope that the sun is going to shine very soon. And life will return to normal. Everybody needs young, smart MBA guys on their to get some fresh blood, fresh new thoughts into their organization. So the world is open to opportunities. You should be ready for that opportunity. So with that, I will wrap this up. Thank you so much, Rajiv, Sanjit, Alvin, Priya, for joining me on this panel and sharing this wealth of experience. It's been a very interesting hour and a half spent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rajneesh, Rajiv, Alvin, Sanjit, and Priya. One of the most interesting discussions that I have been part of, and I'm not trying to flatter or anything. And the response from the students also reflects that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And with your due permission, we will move on to the next panel discussion. We already have our next set of panelists.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, very good afternoon to all the esteemed panelists for the second panel. We are very glad to have all of you here. I, Professor Joydeep, welcome all of you to this session of second panel discussion on an interesting theme. Will there be a change of equation between the marketing spend and revenue forecast? Organized by KIIT School of Management, KIIT University. The current pandemic seems to have changed our life, at least for now, while we adapt to this new normal, something that we were discussing in panel 1 discussion. Continuing on that, in the next promising session, we look forward to understand from our panelists what has been the impact on marketing function due to the present scenario. How has the equation between marketing spends and its impact on revenues changed for their industries, for their organizations, and most importantly, for their consumers. Now, let me begin by first introducing the galaxy of corporate stars who have gathered here today for the discussion of this interesting topic. Our first panelist is Mr. Sandeep Agarwal, Vice President and Country Head Tech Mahindra for Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg markets, who shall also moderate the panel discussion. Sandeep has over 15 years of professional experience spanning across 5 European countries in different roles in HCL and Tech Mahindra. At HCL, Sandeep was responsible for business development in Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg geographies, and before that in Germany and France. During his 12 plus years at HCL, he established HCL's presence in large parts of Europe. His industry experience, and our students will be very interested in that, is in upcoming areas like IoT, design thinking, digitalization of processes, and AI/ML-led solutions for businesses. He has personally led large-scale IT and transformation programs at Axonable, Signify, Lafarge, and Novartis, amongst many other customer organizations. Sandeep, interestingly, is also on the advisory board of successful startups in space of food techs and edtechs. Sandeep is a BTech in civil engineering from IIT Kharagpur and an MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur. Sandeep, welcome to the National Marketing Conclave as our eminent panelist and moderator for the session. Welcome, Sandeep.
Thank you, Joy.
Then we have with us Mr. Raghu Reddy, Chief Business Officer at Xiaomi India. In his present role, he is responsible for all categories and online sales business of MI India. Additionally, he also oversees operations for Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Nepal markets. Having joined the Xiaomi team in 2016, Raghu played a key role in propelling Xiaomi's exponential sales growth and managed the online sales teams. In his leisure time, Raghu pursues his passion for fitness. He's very fit. He's not only a cricket enthusiast, and I can vouch for that, but also an avid runner. Raghu graduated from NIT, Karnataka. He further pursued a PGDVM in marketing and finance from XLRI Jamshedpur. A little fun fact here, Raghu, Sandeep, and I happen to be XLRI batchmates. So it is like a small alum get together for us right now. Okay, and that's purely coincidental, let me assure you. Raghu, I welcome you to the panel discussion of National Marketing Conclave. Looking forward to learning a lot from you in next hour or so. Our next panelist is Mr. Kiran Patil, founder and CEO of Growisto, a rising e-commerce marketing and technology company. Kiran is an alumnus of IIT Bombay and has over 16 years of experience in e-commerce and digital marketing. His entrepreneurial spirit and unwavering attitude has helped online businesses grow to their full potential. He is a part of esteemed Forbes Business Council, and his work has been featured in Entrepreneur, Business to Community, Your Story, Inc. 42, Indian Retailer, and many others. Interestingly, when not absorbed in being a business transformation catalyst, he loves traveling, cycling, and trekking in unexplored destinations. Kiran, I thank you for being part of today's discussion, and I welcome you in the panel.
Thanks for giving the opportunity, Joydeep.
Thanks, Kiran. Very, very glad to have you on the panel. Our fourth panelist is Mr. Shrikant Kumar Parida, Vice President Marketing at SHV Energy Private Limited. With a rich experience of more than 30 years, he has worked with Strategic Management Group, Sahara India, KSK Energy Ventures, Goodless Nerolac Paints, and Berger Paints. He's completed his PGDM in Sales and Marketing from our neighboring institute, our competing institute, Xavier Institute of Management, and BSc Engineering in Mechanical from NIT Rourkela. Shrikant sir, a very, very warm welcome to the panel discussion of National Marketing Conclave. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Joydeep, and thanks, and look forward.
Yeah. Talking about alums, our fifth panelist, Mr. Prasad Rautre, is our very own alumni from the first ever batch of KIIT. And I'm sure the audience will be delighted to know this. Prasad is an executive committee member of Bharti Enterprises, New Venture Airtel Payment Bank. Prasad is the chief business for the bank and industries, corporates, emerging businesses, and government segment. He also looks after corporate alliances and is a member of an early startup investment for the bank in fintech space. Prior to banking, he was leading the business for Mumbai Circle for Airtel with an annual revenue of rupees 2,500 crores. He is a fintech and telecom specialist in B2B space and is passionate about creating India's next generation hyperlocal fintech bank, serving the unbanked Bharat to millennials of New India. Prasad is an angel investor who believes in investing into organizations who help bridge the gap between Bharat and India. He is very keen to contribute to KIIT's growth as an alumnus. And Prasad, let me assure you that KIIT is equally keen to explore learning avenues with its bright, shining alumni like you. Prasad, welcome back to your alma mater, and lovable KIITians, look forward to your words of wisdom during the panel discussion of National Marketing Conclave. Welcome, Prasad.
Thank you so much. Looking forward.
Our sixth and final panelist is Mr. Somar Deka, Director Marketing, High Radius. Somar is SaaS marketing leader with 15 years of work experience behind him. He currently drives mid-market initiatives for High Radius, a fintech unicorn revolutionizing the smart CFO's office. He has worked for brands like Cognizant, SAP, Oracle, Facebook, Wipro, McDonald's, IBEBO, and HarperCollins. Surely a very, very long list, Somar. Somar believes it is a long list of brands and credits his professional development to such diverse experience. Having started out with software development, analytics, and search engine marketing, Somar soon ventured into demand generation, social media, marketing tech, inbound product, and content/video production. He is now adept at scaling up high-performance marketing teams and programs from scratch. At one point, Somar himself tried running a social media consulting company. He still manages to run a couple of marketing workshops every year, especially around marketing automation, social media, and digital marketing. It is an academic endeavor he truly enjoys and one which allows him to perpetually stay a student of the game. Somar, this panel discussion is, let me assure you, is surely a platform where you have so many students keenly listening and hoping to learn from you. Somar, welcome to the National Marketing Conclave as our eminent panelist. Welcome, Somar.
Thanks, Joydeep.
Now, without being a further obstacle between the esteemed panelists and our audience, I hand over the session to Sandeep for an enriching discussion. Sandeep, over to you. It's all yours.
Thank you, Joy, and once again, I welcome all the panelists. First of all, I was amazed to look at the diverse leadership that we have amongst the panelists, right? And when this topic was given to me, to moderate, right? I was first of all, the first thought that actually came to my mind, right? I mean, as a business leader, we never realize or appreciate the importance of marketing, especially in our part of the industry, right? Wherein we assume ki marketing to hota hi rehta hai yaar, what is there in that, right? But then once this topic came, and then I was thinking that is this topic important? Is there really a relationship between marketing and sales, or marketing and revenue? And it came it became very obvious that yes, it is. And probably in some industries it is even more important, and in some industries it is not so important, but still there is always a relationship, right? And then I was thinking that okay, if there is a relationship, what is that relationship? And what is a good number, or what is a good percentage of your revenue that is important for you to have an efficient marketing program, right? Because it works both way. If you underinvest in marketing, you don't get appropriate revenue. If you overinvest, then you are eating up on your margins, which the stock market doesn't appreciate, right? So we have to be cautious on both the fronts. And then the third question that came to mind, that is it something that is uniform across the industries? Does it changes from B2B industry or a B2C industry? And that's why I was interested to hear different views, right? And then again, I also thought that even if it is B2B or B2C, right, there are some industries where even if it is B2C, right, perhaps a small or a startup has to invest more in marketing and branding compared to, let's say, a large established brand, right? So these were different questions that was coming to my mind, and that's when I was very happy that the diversity of the panel will actually help me understand this equation more. Maybe I am a little naive, and therefore I thought this is also a learning opportunity for me, that how does it work. So really, Raghu, Kiran, Shrikant, Prasad, Somer, please share your view, because I'm sure all five of you truly represent five different set of industries at five different positions, and your views on this topic will really help me learn, and I'm sure the students will also benefit from your thoughts on this topic. Over to you. Maybe we can start first with Raghu. Raghu, you're on mute. The most famous thing during
Yeah. Hey, thanks Joydeep, and thanks Sandeep for letting me start with this. I think very correctly put when you say that this entire thing. I mean, when I think Joydeep sent this email saying that we're going to talk about marketing as a function of revenue and how does that sort of change. I believe that I think it's very different for different segments, and of course it also depends on which stage of the life cycle you are as a company. At least obviously, what I'm going to talk about is basis purely my experience in the consumer product space, which is where I've been for the last 8 years. And the one thing that sort of strikes me very, very clearly is that this relationship or this ratio of marketing spend as a function of revenue will have to go down, especially for what I call the new breed of companies, which would be the likes of a direct to consumer focused kind of a company. So I believe that at least in the consumer product space, especially with e-commerce taking a larger and larger share, there will be this new breed of direct to consumer companies which will do very, very well. And I think they will do very well because they will also figure out a way to bring the marketing cost as a percentage of revenue down by a significant number compared to most of the other competitors. Will this be restricted to these new age companies? The answer is no. Obviously, you will have existing brands that are fairly large, but I think these brands will also figure out a way to reinvent themselves to go become more direct to consumer. Now, what does that mean? I think how does that actually work? You'll have to sort of, I think a very, very good example for this in a very, very large scale is frankly a company like Nike. It's a great brand marketing company. And they, I think in 2019, they decided that they want to move away from, doing their pilot on Amazon.com and actually start selling directly. Right. And, why does this entire thing work? This works because I think most companies are realizing that to be able to do marketing effectively, you need to really own the relationship with the end customer. And in a B2C or in a consumer space, the key to getting there means that you need to have the right set of tools that allow you to take feedback directly from the end customer, to be able to drive the awareness for the customer through your own channels, and be able to drive the transaction, as well as provide the relevant services to the end customer. So there are these brands that are able to get to this whole life cycle of doing things for their customers on their own platforms. And I think if the companies that are able to drive a larger portion of this through their own platforms will be in a place where they're able to optimize their spends a lot more effectively. How does it work? I think once you have these customers directly interacting with your own channels, which could be your app, your website, your own email service, or your own social media handles, I think the cost of reaching those customers for your existing offering or a new offering will always be much lower than what it is for some of the brands that don't have that data. Of course, all of this sounds very simple, but being able to build this entire thing out is, I think, where my friend Sandeep probably helps a lot of companies get there. But it's easier said than done, I think. And companies that are doing well in this space are the companies that will become the big names of the future, according to me.
No, absolutely, Raghu. Actually, when you were talking, I was, smiling a bit. And, the thing is that, I see that, more and more in the industry, right? More and more industry, especially with the marketing budget. At least, I can talk from my personal experience that, our marketing budget during this pandemic, right? Because we're talking of the new normal, it came down by 50%, but our target remained same. That means, my sales target, my revenue target as a company, it still remained the same. And therefore, what was expected out of, people like us is that, we have to do more with less, right? So, and I think, that's the new normal that, we are talking about, which you rightly reflected upon. And I still remember, when Nike came out with their, Q3 result, I was, very happy because, the stock market went up by, 2 or 3% that day, right? Especially the US market. And that really shows that, what you're mentioning, that, companies who are able to directly engage, with their end consumers, directly, they are the ones who are, more successful. And actually, I was surprised that, I was, so, at one end, we have examples of, Nike and all. At the other end, we also have examples of companies, who don't advertise at all. Their supporters do their advertisement. Right? For example, Manchester United, right? So I was looking at it that, they don't spend anything on it. In fact, the brands that are, partners of Manchester United, they sponsor and, they do marketing for Manchester United. Right? So it's always good to be at, that end of the spectrum. And that's where, I think, more and more companies would try to, get there, but, not every industry can get there, right? So, but, I have a question for Kiran. So Kiran, you are helping, the companies do more with less. So, how are you doing it? What are the challenges that you're facing? And, please share your view on the other end of the spectrum. Kiran?
Sorry, I got disconnected in between, but I could hear you, Sandeep. Thanks for putting this forward. So I think the pandemic has brought in benefits in terms of opportunities for some companies, especially in the healthcare segment, D2C brands, etc. At the same time, it has brought in lesser revenues or loss of revenue for certain segments. In both these cases, there has been a very stringent need for marketing optimization and evolution. The good thing for the marketers is that the presence of online marketing channels has increased, especially OTT platforms are emerging, which is a good marketing channel. There's a lot of consumers are spending time on even more social media platforms. At the same time, e-commerce is increasing. And because of this, a lot of companies are finding it very easy to use performance-driven marketing, very precise marketing, which helps them convert their marketing spend into sales, and also at the same time measure it effectively. So I think that is one big observation which I have seen post 2020 March, that companies are going more aggressive on the online channels. and they are able to do very precise marketing. For example, a company which has more sales coming in from 4 cities, they will run more of their Facebook ads and their Google ads on these four cities. And even OTT platforms are coming up with options where only location specific advertisement can be done. There are companies which also help you run television ads specific to location. All this is helping companies evolve their marketing and also correlate their marketing spend into their sales. One thing which is I would like to add here, a little off the topic, but which is very useful for the students, is that where do the students of today, who would be the marketers of tomorrow, find themselves in this pandemic? I think you are in a very good situation because digital marketing overall, or this new style of marketing, which involves digital as well as omni-channel marketing, this is a fairly new evolving field. And that's why you have an advantage that you can quickly learn and beat anyone who has 10, 12, 15, 20 years experience and showcase yourself. As an example, one of your alumnus, her name is Payal Das. Okay, she was working with us, a 2019 alumnus. She gave an exam of Amazon marketing. Okay, and she scored 100 out of 100. Okay, she's our employee. She scored 100 out of 100. A person with 5 years experience in Amazon marketing may not have that experience. So I think this new normal has brought in advantage to the youngsters. You should make full of use of it. You have the ability to understand digital platforms quickly. And that's where you should also play or take this as an advantage for yourself and try to understand what is it that the corporate want. The corporate want that the marketing spend should be correlated to the sales. And if you focus on that part during your work, your internships, then I think you would be able to give real value to corporate. Yeah.
Thank you, Kiran. Actually, one very interesting point that you made, like that the students who are perhaps graduating in this year or next, right? They have a very very big advantage because whatever marketing the previous batch has learned, right? That's not applicable anymore in the new normal, right? So whatever crap or good things that they would have learned or they would have experienced, right? So that completely changes. And second very interesting point that you made was around precision marketing, right? More and more companies, because they want to have the biggest bang for the buck, right? So they want to go for precision marketing, targeted ad, and this is where platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, they become very important. And here I would like to get view from Shrikant, right? Because I think Shrikant and I, both of us, represent that boring part of the industry where we are focused more and more on the B2B part of it. And for us, marketing is an overhead, and I mean, at least till now, marketing was an overhead and not an investment, right? Because we perhaps we target not more than 1,000 people in a year, and that too is a stretch, right? So Shrikant, how do you see your company, your views on marketing, and how is it helping you as a business leader?
Yeah. So I would thanks Sandeep. I would start off with a slightly off-track statement. I would say rather I would welcome all these students itself, because I also happened to hear some of the questions raised in the earlier panel discussion. They were worried about is it going to be valued, devalued, or overvalued in this kind of pandemic situations. I would say don't worry for any kind of scenarios. In fact, as rightly told by Sandeep, it is the best opportunity. Why I'm saying best opportunity? Because if you are navigating a turbulence, possibly the kind of an experience, the kind of a resilience you will build in is tremendous. And also, I would like to add a small element, like academics has little role to play in your real life when you really step into the corporate or whether you are becoming an entrepreneur. It typically depends on how is your mindset, what you are aiming for, or what is your ambitions. So keep a lot of ambitions, and I'm sure if you have that kind of a passion for ambition, you do definitely do well wherever, whichever things you take it up. Number one. Number two, Sandeep has rightly told that both of us belong to some part of the not so aggressive or marketing. For example, if I would share my experience, because I work for an LPG company. Of course, they are a global MNCs and worldwide they're number one in terms of the LPG scenarios. But in the Indian context, are slightly different because of the domestic sector being the predominant of around 88% subsidy. We don't have any subsidy, those kind of scenarios. We did not have a marketing as a separate team or a separate function till 2007. We started sometime in 1996. So it was more of a sales functions rather than a marketing. So suddenly we realized, no, we have to also have some element of marketing. We have to get in more customers, and marketing has a better role to play in that. So the germination of marketing team happened. And if you look at it, basically, what are these marketing spends are like? Like if we keeping in mind that our MBS friends who are listening right now or who are being participating here. So what is basically a marketing spend? If you really look at it, marketing people are typically the dream merchants, because ultimately they are not on the front side. They are not the sales warriors who are fighting it out on the field, meeting the customers or fending up the competitions and explaining the value they will be bringing into a customer or a prospective customer. So basically marketing is an alignment in sales, how they will make the sales more seamless, how they will create more demands, how they will create more leads. So basically, if you look at that, if we slightly break it out, I'll put it into three components. So what is a marketing spend like? Okay. So the basic objective of a marketing spend would be, of course, you have to build a brand. People have to know you, because typically people have a passion. If they know you, possibly your sales guys will find it easier to convert them to a customer. Second is, of course, you have to generate more leads. You have to have more customers to your product. So how you can, rather than a cold calling by the sales guys, how they will get the all leads at their own place. So that is a lead generation. The most important aspect, of course, how you will retain your existing customers. Of course, marketing has a lot many role to play in that, because you have a customer engagement, you have your customer experience, where marketing plays an important role. Then another element which of late has picked up very well, which many people call is a marketing technology or automation technology. And that is the new things. In fact, it has been happening for quite a long time. And it was also expected that it would be taking a real quantum jump. And fortunately, the pandemic situations has put the pedal and accelerator on this aspect in terms of the digitization, in terms of automation, in terms of technology coming into a lot of scenarios for the marketing. And the last but not least is, of course, the training element also, because the people have to be trained enough, because you have attritions, you have new people coming in, competition going up. What you have created as a value is no longer a value for that, because it is being copied by everyone. So all those elements would typically, I'm saying in a broader terms for in clarity of understanding, because on a lighter note, I would say one of our value system is keep things simple. Okay. All those MBA terminologies, those jargons hardly will really matter in the real working area. Okay. So these are the elements of a marketing spend, which I was saying into. Then again, Sandeep has also made my statement easier, because he has initially mentioned, there is a uniformity in the marketing spend? Is the industry in the similar industry, if there are 5 players, do they have the similar kind of a trend, or is it different? If you look at the data part of it, yes, it is all different. As I was saying, and because we are in the energy or utilities, as you may be calling, we had a very minuscule budget for marketing, very, very minuscule. In fact, I don't feel comfortable to say here also, it is so minuscule. But in that minuscule marketing budget also, we tried to bring out the best out of the scenarios. If you look at the FMCG, those kind of consumer goods, they'll be possibly having something around 20%, something around 24%, 25%, some of the high-end, high-spend ones, and maybe on the lower side, possibly the utilities, the manufacturing sector, where it will be very, very low. Again, it will differ from a B2B, B2C, service industry, product industry. So all this has a element of role. At the end, it will boil down to what your company is looking for, what your company is aiming to get the best out of the whole scenarios. So that is, I would say, Radzi, industry-wise, if you would like to have a breakout. Coming back to the contextual element here, because we are discussing here more on the COVID, because this topic is coming, whether the marketing spend as a percentage of revenue will remain the same, or is it going to be different because of the COVID, because it has a brought in a lot of new dimension to the business. Economy is down, business is down, consumer sentiment is down. Everyone is unsure what is happening next, how long it is going to continue, is the vaccine working, not working? So a lot many questions, uncertainties are here. Okay, so this typically puts us into a statement, knowing what to do when you don't know what to do. That's the condition where we are right now here. Okay, so we don't know what is what we have supposed to, but we are expected to know what is we are supposed to do here. Okay, so if I slice it into the different elements of marketing spend, I will start with the first one, which is a digital marketing spend. Of course, everyone has told, yes, digital marketing spend, it was taking a momentous leap. It is going to take a momentous leap. Even the traditional companies or small companies who are not looking at it today, they have a digital marketing team, they have a content writer, they have a designer, all in-house. And typically someone who is starting across, they are going to an agency to take the help, take the guidance and take it forward. In the digital part of the digital, Sandeep, you have to please stop me if I am exceeding the time limit, okay? And in the digital marketing side also, like there are also sub-elements, how they can bring in value. So for example, we call them as Sherpas. Sherpas are typically, they would be the guiding factor in terms of whether they are the Google Ads specialist, social media specialist. So they are the Sherpas because they will handle the sales to see and reach the summit. There will be also a Compass group. When I'm saying a Compass group, Compass groups are typically who slice the data. They are the data analytics side of the story. They will slice the data. They will find out who are the contributors, who are the destroyers. When I'm saying contributors, the value contributors, if you have a set of customers, who are the contributors who are adding more value, where you are getting the best of the values, and destroyers. Definitely in each of the customer element, you would find a set of destroyer also. So if that element of data analytics are being done, so that will definitely help you focus which are the segment or which are the profile which you will be looking for, whether it is a profile, whether it's a geographical terrain, whether it is a particular industry, whether it is a particular application, depending on which business you are in. And that way you will also modify your campaign, your looking at your lead generation, and all those host of other associated parameters will change. So that element is also slowly getting quite a good amount of momentum. And so basically the digital marketing spend is going to be much more, okay? And definitely with the new normal setting in, everyone has embedded or accepted this digital mode, whether a mom and pop store, even the roadside hawkers, they have all sort of payment modalities which are available. A guy who is selling a 6 rupees, 5 rupees worth of tea, he is also having a Google Pay, he is having a Paytm, the mode of mechanism. So definitely this is going to be on a higher side. I'm saying about the digital marketing spend. Then coming to the next point, which is the technology or the automation front. Yes, people have realized that how we can be much faster in response, how it can be automated so that we don't have to depend on the human element, because human element all the time has an emotive factor. Emotive factor can be a positive in some cases, can be a spoiler in some aspect. Okay, so how we can be automated, and thanks to all these e-commerce platforms, they have shown a very clear way how today's customers, he's expecting, if he's placing an order, he expects he has to be intimated whether he sees or doesn't see, but he wants all the information has to flow in on time, right on the real-time basis. And hence this technology or automation has a much bigger role. Today you have an RPA, like your robotics process automation, which is taking really working out well. In fact, as a company also, we have started using it. And we have realized the beauty part of it also. It is very much in marketing side as well, whether it is responding to your social media calls, lead generations. It has a beautiful role, and it is going to be with AI, RPA. These are the things which are going to gain importance as well. Then let's go to the brand building, which is another aspect which will help us. In the brand building, typically, if you look at the pandemic scenarios, brand building, typically either you go to a shop, you see some kind of brands elements, so it is that element of experience. Possibly that may take a slightly lower spend, because people going to a shop, trade fair, workshops, exhibitions on a real physical space is limited. So that may take a lesser or a lower spend. Whereas on the digital side, it will be definitely going to be high because it is very cheap compared to your physical element of it. And definitely brand building on an overall, I see it may go down slightly. Then customer experience and engagement, yes, it is going to be much higher. Training, more or less, it remains the same because that is the inherent part of where you will like to succeed, and your people, because they are going the people who are going to make a difference in the marketplace. Another important aspect I would highlight, because of late we are saying about the sustainability, we are saying about the ecological impact. Everyone is saying about that. Okay, whether you walk the talk or whether you only talk, but everyone is right now having that element of sustainable. We are a sustainable company. We are worried about air quality, which is really a fact. And I must hats up to the millennials because they are quite focused on that. Because I see the kind of enthusiasm in our organization also. Okay. So typically this comes at a cost. This doesn't come cheap. If you have to work out a branding material, which is quite sustainable or ecological in nature, you have to pay a higher price. Possibly companies who have a real sense of purpose, they will opt for it. But overall, I would say this will slightly take a dent in this in the coming year. I'm just saying about the near future. Going down the line, yes, it will work out. Possibly company will focus more on their product and services, which can be on the sustainable side, but on the marketing spend pertaining to the ecological or sustainability side, it may take a slight dent. Then lastly, I would just bear with me, Sandeep, one more minute. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Srikanth. I think 30 more seconds and then, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Lastly, I would say it is also a collaborative opportunities. When I'm saying collaborative opportunities, you have a lot of shared services. If you are similar to yours who have a global presence, many of the companies are at a global presence. So they inbuilt have a shared services, in-house shared services, okay, to bring down the marketing spend as well. That tie up an economy of scale. The agency who are doing for in one country, they will do across the whole of the organization as well. So you will bring down substantially as well. So that's it from my side. So overall, if I would say, yes, it will remain the same more or less compared to say, if I put pre-COVID conditions, because the business is going to go up. It is just a way out and way up scenarios right now where we are in, even though a lot of questions mark and our uncertainties are there, but yes, definitely it is going to pull us through. And hence my view is that yes, overall it will remain the same or slightly a notch lower, but definitely nothing much to be worried about it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Srikanth. That was really comprehensive, and I think your experience of being in this industry and handling the different aspects of marketing and also being ESG compliant and all those things, right? That was coming out very clearly, right? So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I'll move on to the next panelist, Prasad, right? Prasad, you actually represent one of the exciting part of I would say this digital transformation that the entire industry is going through, right? The neo banks or the Airtel payment banks, the fintech, which is actually disrupting this one of the most old, or I would say the most lethargic industry, right? So how is your experience? How is it that you are leveraging marketing to disrupt this industry? I am sure that moving companies like State Bank of India or a Bank of Baroda, or for that matter even HDFC Bank, right, who are supposed to be new age bank, but still I see a lot of scope for improvement over there. What are you doing, and how do you see this industry evolving, and what's the correlation between marketing and business at your side of things? Prasad, I think you're on mute, or
Prasad dropped out, but I think he's joined back. Yeah. Okay. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Prasad. Yeah, very well.
Okay, great, Sandeep. Okay, so let me just try to put it the way I have understood. And I'm trying to simplify, coming back from what my previous panelists told. Let's keep it simple. The way we look at it is that while this industry has stalwarts, since we're talking about our industry, I think that's not good enough is what we believe. And I'll give you the context of it and in the marketing spend part of it. I'm sure that you would agree that we have not spent money like Paytm and PhonePe and Google Pay. We have not spent money, right? But we are in that space is what people believe. So that's the beauty about when to spend, where to spend, and how.
Right? I'll give you some statistics where probably the marketing concept will come out. While everybody in the previous panel talked about the biggest event that's happening is the digital behavior change and all, but let me give you some statistics which will give you the reality of this country. We deal, because of the payment license, the license is actually kind of made only towards the rural sector. That's the way it is actually kind of built in primarily. Not that we will not serve people like all of us or urban, but fundamentally this is very critical for us to understand that this is one category of license which was given to look at the rural sector as the primary sector, and therefore the statistics goes like this. Every third Indian today is not banked. Every 2/3 of India is underbanked. And we have 900 banks today trying to serve this for last 50 years. But 2/3 are not covered. We believe that there is enough market, and we don't have to first look at how to actually look at SDFC or SBI. We have our own problems to do. So the first statement is, our competition is ourselves in our own thought. We ourselves believe that we are the, either we will make the market or we will grow, because it can be the fundamental that we stitch inside as a KRA or a DNA that will make the difference. So I'll tell you how we are approached it and what success we are seeing, so you get an idea about. Today, the industry every day opens close to 40,000 bank accounts. Airtel Payment Bank accounts are 60,000 a day. So industry is 40,000 a day. Airtel Payment Bank is 60,000 a day. It gives you that there is a set of people who actually handle a particular category called India, possibly Hindustan. We handle Bharat. And Bharat and Hindustan opportunity for every student who is here. If you believe in making a difference to this country, that market is absolutely virgin. Now, how does that happen? Because it's not that SDFC doesn't have money or marketing don't happen. We stuck to two simple things that we learned from our Airtel days, And when some of us shifted, we just applied that. First of all, deep distribution. I'm a great fan of physical distribution. I mean, all of us would argue that yes, digital has picked up, but trust me, physical has also picked up. Right? So I'll give you interesting statistics to say how did we handle, and there was zero marketing that we did here. But I would like to tell you what success is happening. We created 250,000 points of presence of physicality, because we knew the rural population which is supporting the urban migrant population shifted to the rural sector. Government gave the DBT of 150,000 and you can't withdraw because there is no SBI there. There is SBI till, with all due respect, to a particular point. And I'm taking SBI because that's the senior most or the biggest in distribution. We are proud to tell you that almost every bank's little money is handled by Airtel Payment Bank. So if you have an SBI account and you want to withdraw the DBT and there is no branch, come to an Airtel branch. We act like an ATM. Through an Aadhaar, which has created a very big ecosystem from NPCI. You put your Aadhaar ecosystem, authenticity, and you get the money. By sheer withdrawal, we withdraw today like an ATM industry. APS withdrawals are last month 29,700 crores. ATM withdrawals are 26,300 crores. Digital, physical beats digital. So this is a very different phenomenon happening during COVID in a particular segment, which has to be known to all of us. And therefore, our job was, there is nothing to market. It is there. People are waiting for your product. The only thing that we actually touch base as a bank or as a telco is, we were brutal about technology, meaning that we will use technology to know the customer. Very light spend on marketing, but marketing personalized. So, for example, to a woman entrepreneur who is an SHG leader, and I don't know if you know SHG, it's self-help groups, who's an HUL entrepreneur, she will need a current account, which has never been spoken to her. But for a farmer who has got a DBT to withdraw, he needs a simple bank account which has got a DBT related and it is active to take it out. Now, this is a phenomenal opportunity. 150,000 crores you have to withdraw. We must have contributed close to 20% of that withdrawal. And if I'm taking a 0.1% of that margin to SBI, I'm proud to say that we are a company which is heading towards 1,000 crore turnover without marketing. While these numbers are here to just kind of tell, we have made it a point that we will not talk about this bank till we create a bank for the nation to watch. And we know that every time when we will come into any kind of forum, they will question, how do you beat SBI and HDFC? And I was expecting that question. I don't think we are in the game of beating it. We are trying to create another SBI or HDFC, but in a very fintech oriented world, but brutally digital, brutally physical, but personalized in marketing. We possibly will go as an example of how not to spend, but put your product. So not to be carried away by, and this is one thing that we have learned. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of young students who are there today, and some of them joined us, and they always said, why are we not behaving like Paytm? Why are we not Google Pay? Our answer, and it is a very hard-hitting answer, I can tell you. We were also very passionate that this was a time of demonetization too. We were very, very reluctant to really, I mean, we were actually almost wanting to do it, but we had to hold it on by saying, no, is the game a test match or it is a one day? This game is not a T20 game. This is a test match. So if you have to play a test match, you have to wear the hat of a Rahul Dravid and, not a massive hitter, So today what we are seeing is there is a set of companies who have come in and become poster boy brands. And there are companies like us who are waiting for the right moment to get into it in a shape and form, which is very authentic and differentiated. While I have given my industry's part of it, I just want to tell you about an innovation about marketing, which as a product, not that it's a product coming out of company. We launched a product, and this is for marketing guys. We launched a product called Bank SIM. And this was not marketing in urban India because this was not a need. SIM is not a need of yours and mine. The Bank SIM is, if you today buy a feature phone and take a SIM from Airtel, a bank is embedded to it. You have to tick mark. The CKYC is same. You are on the banking. 2 acquisitions. Take him on a smartphone. Get him on a SIM. Get him on a bank. We just marketed this in local language. In local language, some of us who have crossed 40, जो कहते हैं ना, जो रिक्शा में बैठ के आप अनाउंस करते हो कि सुनो 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 ये प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च हुआ है. Trust me, मेलास, camps, get-togethers, announcing कि आज 5 बजे एयरटेल का शो होगा. We used all those marketing products, which is zero cost literally. You have to tell the panchayat, he'll get the gathering. Get it. We are happy to tell you that 20,000 SIMs have a bank SIM every day as we launch. So, and we believe that you can't churn that because and the mobile phone is actually the bank account number. So if you change the mobile number, the bank account changes. I think it will be very difficult for anybody to change the bank account from here. So we are holding on to a product and a simple market, but a product is stitched in a very strong manner. But looking at physicality and rural, and therefore I'm saying, look at the market, look at the product, don't get swayed away by the launches of Google Pays and Amazons and get caught into it. Know your waters very well and swim where you're strong. That's my view about what's happening in our industry.
Thank you, Prasad. Actually, that was very, insightful in the sense that, I was reading a blog that, that says that, the entire India can be divided into 3 parts, right? India 1, India 2, and India 3. So while a lot of, industry there, using, technology and, the new age marketing to solve the problems of India 1 and India 2. But, the example that you gave actually is, very exciting, at least, for a technologist like me that, how do we use technology and the means to solve the problem of India 3, which is actually represented by Bharat today, right? So thank you so much. We'll come back again. And now I have a question for our next panelist, Somer. Somer, you have heard different views from different panelists, and since you specialize in marketing ops, right? So and that is also getting disrupted today. So how do you see all these things impacting your day-to-day business or your day-to-day daily routine? Please enlighten us over there.
Yeah. So thanks, Joydeep. First of all, this is pretty enriching. I mean, this entire account by Prasad and everyone from Srikant, Kiran, Raghu. I've learned more in the last half an hour than probably in the last 1 year. So thanks for that. So let me answer that question in three parts, right? And I will also try to contest some of the things that we have talked about right now, just for the heck of it, right? So, so first of all, this entire question, right, this equation between marketing and revenue is not a new question. It has been around for more than 100 years, if I can say so. So there's this guy called John Wanamaker. I'm not sure how many of you the students know about him. So he has a very famous quote, which I'm sure most of you have heard. He said that 50% of my advertisement is a waste. I just don't know which 50%, right? And for the last 50 years, 100 years, that's the problem all marketers have been trying to solve, right? And all marketers have also been laughing about, because we keep trying to do a lot of things and we just don't know what works, what doesn't, right? And sometimes we also look at simplistic answers just because we cannot answer the real question, right? And just to go back to marketing is multi-layer, and it also has a very strong cross-channel, flow, cross-channel pollination. Just to, for example, challenge Prasad. So when you say that we do not, in his particular segment, he may not have made a lot of investments for marketing, right? And that's correct, and that's great. But the fact is, Airtel as a brand, right, has a huge marketing branding spend. And when he's doing a panchayat, for example, right, that brand investment probably will, make the system a little more lubricated for him than someone who probably doesn't have that. So this is just to give you a, understanding of how complicated marketing can be, right? And it's been a 100-year problem. And one of the reasons, so it also depends on how we define marketing, right? Is digital infrastructure marketing? Some people would claim it is, right? So again, if we just look at the last 10 years, what has changed, this equation that we're talking about. Now there's a lot more models and platforms and technology which allows you to attribute spend to revenue, which was not available in the last 100 years, right? So that's one of the reasons why I think Kiran, if I'm not mistaken, or was it Srikant, who actually talked about the revenue spend per industry. And a CPG would probably be on the higher side of 20. The blended numbers, I was just looking at the CMO survey before I came here, is probably around 10 to 15%, maybe sometimes even lower. So if you look at any IT services company, they'll spend 10% of their revenue in marketing. And the primary reason, as I keep saying, is because you do not know if that marketing is performing or not. Right? I think Kiran again introduced a new term called performance marketing. And that is where the new world is moving, right? If you know that your marketing spend dollar to dollar can give you this number of results, your marketing spend will also increase, right? Because you trust the marketing spend more. Again, going back to that, you don't know which 50% works. Now, if you know which 50% works, you will double down. Your ratios would change, right? And the case in point for that is the SaaS world I come from, right? Again, I have unlearned a lot in my life. I've unlearned more than I've learned, right? So, I started with, traditional services, technology services company. Now we're in the SaaS world. So you'll be surprised, and I don't know, some of you probably already know this. In the SaaS world, this number, this percentage that we were talking about, right, 10%, 25%, is extremely high. So any SaaS company probably would be spending more than 50, 60% of their total budget into marketing. That's a huge number. I know companies who spend more than 100%. I know companies who spend 150%, which means that to earn $1, you are almost willing to spend $1.5 in marketing, right? Now that looks like a little bit of an oxymoron, right? Why would you want to do that, right? And there's a reason for it. And I think that reason would also explain this entire equation that we're talking about. So the thing that is different with SaaS is once, as what is SaaS? SaaS is eventually you're selling anything digital, right? So this entire thing is digital, which means you can track, the footprint is easier to track. Let's say something like branding or something like, a billboard is difficult to track. But here we know the entire journey. Every single SaaS company will talk in terms of marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads and opportunities. Everything can be tracked, not forget marketing. It can be tracked the channel within the marketing, right? Again, as I think Srikant was talking about, did it come from a Facebook ad? We can. Which campaign? We can clearly figure out where that entire journey. Now, if you knew that, right, you always would want to double down on the ones which work. So that's the first thing that's different in the SaaS world. The second thing is the barrier to entry is very low in the SaaS space. Now, we all know these stories about how 5 very sharp engineers, sitting out of garage has just created a software that has taken over the world, right? There are tons of examples like that, So in that case, technology is a great, leveler, right? So that even if you have a great product and even if you have some great features, there's no way to stop 5 young guys, maybe straight out of KIT, who to build a product which is better and capture the market. So which means that velocity or sales, customer acquisition for SaaS is extremely important. You can't wait for tomorrow. A quarter is a lifetime in the SaaS world, right? So it's totally fine to spend more money to get that person into your system, right? To sell that person, get the lock-in. And the third thing about the SaaS industry is the lock-in factor itself. Once you invest in a technology or software, right, it's a little difficult to move out, right? So I'll just give you an example. So in my previous organization, we were using one marketing automation tool. I think Srikanth can talk about what marketing technology and tool is, right? So we use a tool called Marketo. So my only challenge with Marketo was that it's very robust, but it's very difficult to find talent around Marketo, right? I would have to go to agencies and, there's a churn. So, and in the meantime, there's another marketing automation tool called HubSpot, which, came to me, said, we're going to give you at least a 25-30% cheaper rate than what you're paying, right? We'll give you 3 new features which you do not have in your current system. Very enticing. But did I move? No, because I knew that if I have to move, the change and disruption that will happen in terms of the people, the processes, and the technology that's embedded with, right? It's huge. The change management cost is huge, right? So that again explains why you'd rather spend money now, right, and pay $1.5 to get that $1. Because from a lifetime perspective, this guy is going to stay with you for 3 years at least until he drops out, and you'll probably make more money in that lifetime process than just the first deal size. So in that way, marketing becomes more exciting and more interesting in the SaaS world, right? Again, I just wanted to bring that perspective in. I think we can go back to the panel and take questions.
No, thank you, Samar. Actually, when you were talking about, the SaaS world, you actually made a very profound statement that, a quarter is a lifetime, when it comes to SaaS world, right? And I know that, in the SaaS world, they typically track, numbers like, what is the revenue generated per marketing dollar that is spent. And I think, that's a useful metric that can be taken across industry and not just, to the SaaS world, right? So, first of all, thank you to all the panelists for, giving your views, right? So now we'll do some Q&A and, we also take, questions from the audience, right? So while, audience types in their question, I had one question especially for, Raghu. Raghu, you have been on, both sides of the table, right? You have been on, Snapdeal, before you were with Xiaomi, right? And now you're with Xiaomi. And typically we see that there is a lot of competition, especially with e-commerce, marketplace, there is no option but, for consumer brands to coexist, right? So while companies want to sell directly, but they also realize that, these marketplaces are, an important channel for them to, generate revenue. So how do you see them? I mean, how did your, thought process change, being on both sides and, especially Xiaomi, which is, I think it started initially only via Flipkart or, only via Amazon, if I remember correctly. And then, it has started to open all its own channels, right? So how do you see this evaluation? Any views?
Yeah, very pertinent question. Actually, I last thought about it back in 2014, 2015. I think I was on the other side. I was in Snapdeal, and I'd met the Xiaomi folks at that point in time, and I'd also heard that they intend to start their own e-commerce site, which was the me.com. And at that point, I thought, how does it make sense? I mean, you're better off being on a large e-commerce horizontal platform, which helps you drive a lot of traffic, and everything else comes on a platter. You don't really have to do anything. I mean, why go through the hassle of setting up warehouses, logistics, setting up a platform, payment gateway, when you get all of that on a platter, and the traffic as well? I mean, obviously, for any new e-commerce thing, you'll have to spend money on getting the traffic as well. So at that point, it didn't make sense. But I think when I joined Xiaomi, I realized that by depending entirely on e-commerce platforms, you only end up getting a very basic information about, who's your customer and what is happening. You probably get to know how much sales you're doing on a regular basis. You probably get to know some reviews, but a large part of the real customer information, or the large part of the ability to reach to the customer, is frankly not there, right? I mean, you're dependent on the e-commerce platforms to decide whether they want to run a campaign targeting your customers, people who bought your brand. So in that sense, I mean, it hobbles you, and which is where I think, it starts making sense to actually have your own platform. And as the e-commerce platforms become larger and larger, I mean, your ability to drive anything meaningful from them will always have to be driven through their ad dollars, which is in the form of Amazon marketing services, or some of the other things. And to reach your own customers, you will have to probably pay. So I think, which is where investing in creating your own platform, your ability to create your own relationship with the customer is very, very important, especially if you want to drive those things in the long term. I mean, being able to get the right kind of feedback, being able to reach out to those customers with your services, which are more in tune to just for your products. So I think that's been the ambition for us. I think with me.com, we've built out me.com as an independent platform. I think a lot of people might not know, but me.com as a site, and me store, which is the app, is the third largest e-commerce platform in India, behind Flipkart and Amazon, with in terms of revenues. In terms of probably transactions, maybe Myntra is a little bigger. And that approach of direct to consumer is not just limited to the digital world. I think it can also be executed in the retail world. Again, I think a lot of people might not be aware, but Xiaomi now has the largest single brand retail network in the country. The number of exclusive Xiaomi stores is actually bigger than the most synonymous single brand retail brand in the country, which is Bata. It's bigger than Domino's. It's bigger than Cafe Coffee Day. So there are 3,000 plus stores across 400 plus cities. And I think once you have a retail network also, I think using technology, you are able to get a lot of levers on how you can reach out to your customers at the end of the day. So I think very pertinent question. I think going forward, I think some of the larger brands will also pivot into going direct to consumer more and more, according to me.
But are you guys planning to offer then this largest e-commerce platform, single brand, to other players, or is it like, I mean, at the moment, is it only for Xiaomi products?
No, it is. Yeah, it's still only a brand network at the end of the day, right? I mean,
okay.
I mean, that is your competitive advantage. I mean, why would you end up going and offering that to someone else?
No, the reason I'm asking is, I was talking to the head of marketing for Philips Lighting, right? So they have their own e-commerce platform here in Netherlands. And when I asked him, he said, why not? We will, I mean, if Osram wants to come and sell on the, platform of Philips Lighting, they are more than welcome. First of all, it gives them added boost in terms of marketing, that even competition is preferring this platform. And second is, they get money out of it. Every sale made, they get some commission, right? So that's why I was even with this question.
No, I think, one more trend that probably will tell you that a lot of brands are, looking down this path is the growth of Shopify as a platform.
Yeah.
I mean, if you see, worldwide, I think Shopify is the one big e-commerce platform that's actually growing, but it's not doing e-commerce the Amazon way. It's actually helping brands set up their own stores and do their own thing. And the reason why they're growing is because I think brands also realize that they need to take their destiny in their own hands.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is one very valid trend that I've also seen during this pandemic, right? More and more business are going digital, but they're trying to get digital on their own. And this is where concepts like Shopify or Facebook Shop, they are helping them get there. Prasad, how do you see the views that was shared by Somer in terms of SaaS this thing, right? Because essentially to my mind, even if banking is a service, right? I mean, still the services that's provided by Airtel Bank, it's more of a SaaS product, I would say, right? I mean, you're using technology to solve this banking problem. So how do you respond to views from Somer?
Okay, so I think Somer's view is absolutely, I have a mixed reaction to it. One, I definitely agree that there is an Airtel cover to the Airtel Payment Bank. So that's definitely an advantage to it. But I'll tell you the disadvantage to it is also that it is very difficult to say we are also a bank. It has overpowered the entire story so much that if you don't invest on Airtel Payment Bank brand, you will be lost as a bank. So it's actually cutting it in both sides. So while we, some of us may see, okay, we have an advantage, in us, we see this as a disadvantage. In fact, in some board meetings, we said, why can't we launch our own online, bank, ecosystem like an ICICI? So those discussions happen at board level. So you can imagine the impact of the brand. But having said that, I think I would add on to what someone was actually saying. It depends on, again, whom are you looking at, which market you're looking at, what product and which situation and which landscape. I mean, it's so many questions.
So the 4P of marketing still remains relevant.
Still. So if you have to go back to, I mean, all of us, at that, whenever we did our courses and all, this has never changed, right? This 4P has never changed, right? So I think it's very simplified to be looked at. The only difference is today, omni-channel is certainly, to Raghu's point, there is a curve coming in. While digital massifies, are you losing track of your customer? That hold is very important. Today, I agree with Raghu that Flipkart cannot decide what I want to sell, for example. The other one, I'll tell you, I play another role as alliances in my role. And we have seen alliances partnering where you can see benefits because you tie up, a better way to actually market, where you see together growing versus competing, And in many ways, I'll give you an example of this bank, this fintech company called Open. I don't know how many of you follow, this fintech world, or look at an ecosystem called Neo. They're actually creating a platform for the banks, right? So the game is not about HDFC's access or let's say new bank called Airtel Payment Bank. The game is, can all these 5 banks be on the platform, and a consumer comes in and says, okay, this product from HDFC, that product from Airtel Payment Bank, this product from mutual fund. Now, can you imagine that coming in? And are you a part of it or are you leading it? Then the marketing, ecosystems change. So it's a very interesting model to see, and there is no loyalty. I mean, today I can tell you, look at the number of people right now on us. When we started, it was at 522. It is right now 458. You have 45 minutes to impress. Otherwise, it's as brutal as that. You want to hold on to the client, you have to be at that elevated. And the last one I would say is, we have a strong connect to our DNA is that we want to know the customer and talk to the customer. I don't want to imagine if all of us were talking on an audio versus all of us are seeing each other. The impact is as simple as that, right? How can I see his body language? How can I understand his language? How can I give him the product that he's asking for? So I was one of the new students who joined us has said that if there are 10 crore customers that Airtel Payment Bank wants to achieve and be the top 3 banks of India in, let's say, in 3 years from now, that's an ambition that we have. How can I have 10 crore marketing plans? Because I'm actually going to touch everybody, because everybody's financial need is completely different. Your and mine is different. Raghu is different. Kiran's different. Soma's is different, right? That is the kind of chase. That's the ideal spot. How can we do that is where actually different. And the last one is, never forget that your existing customers are the most important one. Ask us, because we fought a battle recently versus one of the largest houses spending $1 lakh to match her. And we just said ourselves as the Airtel side, just stick to your existing customer. Leave the spot of number 1, but be the best customer service provider. So customer service, I would score higher than marketing. So if you can combine product, great customer service, even if you have less budget on marketing, you have done your thing. So that's where I would say is my reaction is.
Yeah, thanks, Prasad. Really, nice insight. Kiran, I have, I'm taking few questions from the audience, right? And, I had a few, questions that I can see on my screen. One of the questions, right, especially as a, marketing, consultant or, a company that specializes in, giving advice to other companies. There are few companies, and, I'll not take any names, and, they're making losses or, perhaps, their business has, decreased. For, companies like this, right, do you think that, this new equation, right, the new equation of, move towards digital versus physical plus, more focus on marketing or, less focus on marketing for respective industry, right? Will that equation remain static, or do you see that changing? Quick, 60 seconds answer, please.
So I think that equation depends on company to company. Some companies, they have a long-term vision. They are playing the bet and they want to make loss in customer acquisition. I think where is the loss coming in is an important part to understand. When you have your own website, you essentially spend money to acquire a customer. First order comes at a loss. And when the customer buys repeatedly, then only it comes at a profit, unless you have spent a lot of time, money in branding. The marketplaces or the bigger brands that we have heard about who have made losses have played that bet to acquire customers and then essentially get more orders from that customer. But there are other companies which are fairly new. Look at Wow Cosmetics, look at M Caffeine. Okay, these are very new brands, just 3-4 years old brands primarily. Of course, they have started working 5-6 years earlier, but the main part of their marketing has started 3-4 years back, and they are having good ratio of ACOS. Okay, their cost of customer acquisition is fairly low because they are playing it in both ways. They are working on their own platform as well as they are getting sales from marketplaces. And they are very cognizant of how much they are spending in trying to acquire a customer. So I think in the new normal, the second trend will be more because a lot of companies won't have money to wait for 3-4 years to get benefits out of their marketing spend done today. But I think the trend is in both cases. I mean, it's all depends on company to company. There are companies on the other side. I know companies which have grown profitably to the level of 500 crore revenue per annum, 100% profitable in the past 4 years. Okay, no one knows about them. They don't do anything on branding. They don't do anything on television advertisements. They have 500 crore revenue. When others come to know about their revenue, they are like, oh, this company gets so much revenue. I think it's all about the business strategy. Some companies want to spend in marketing and customer acquisition, take the bet. Some companies want to scale it up gradually, but profitably. It all depends on company to company.
Thank you, Kiran. Yeah, that's a pertinent view. Shrikant, one question for you, right? I mean, especially in our industry, right? We don't know where the competition is coming from, right? Nobody would have imagined that, today Zoom would be, perhaps a competition for, airlines, right? Qatar and all, right? People are meeting more over this thing. So in a way, Zoom is kind of competition to different hotel industries and also to the travel industry, right? So, quick 30-second or, perhaps 60-second answer that, how do you see, how do you keep track of, competition coming from unexpected angles and how marketing can help you over there?
Very, very pertinent question, Sandeep, because right from the beginning, we have this kind of a struggle also because we are in the energy segment or energy basket. We sell typically LPG in the India. Outside, of course, we have LNG, we have NG, those kind of stuff. So our competition is not only the LPG marketeers or LPG distribution companies, our competitors are also the other fuel or energy sources. It can be a petrol, it can be a diesel, it can be
a Tesla, for example. So.
yeah, it can be a Tesla also because we are also in the auto LPG segment also. Yeah. So all the time we keep on trying to make a switch from the others to us. Fortunately, there is an angle of sustainability. And some of those baskets are also favorable in terms of like, you say, if you look at HST or LDO, like high-speed diesel and light diesel oil, they are very, very similar in terms of the cost economics. Also, LPG is better than the current ones also. And the trend says so also. So all throughout, we have been engaging ourselves in the energy switch. If he's using A, can he move to LPG or some other products? We also anticipate or apprehend down the line, fossil fuel is going for a toss. Maybe by 2040, fossil fuel would have a little bias that possibly it will be more moving towards more of renewable or non-fossil fuels. So we are equally keeping our eyes open, and this is a forever changing marketplace. Okay, so we have to keep an eye at the same time, move quickly also. The agility has to take place, keeping in mind that things are going to be very, very open, or maybe surprise elements can come in. So that's why we have also recently, as a global team also, we have come out with an innovation as a separate functional area. How we can build up the culture of innovation, how, because at the end of the day, the frontline warriors, they come in the direct touch with all the touch points in the marketplace. They typically get the pain points very quickly. But if they can be slightly fine-tuned in terms of the cultural aspect, how they can pick up those small signals, small alerts, and then convert that into an idea which can germinate down the line into either a product or a services. So that's definitely an area where everyone has working on.
Yeah, thank you, Shrikant.
Thanks.
Yeah, one question for you, right? Especially you are coming from a fintech world, right? So, yesterday I was having a demo to a product, which is a open banking platform, wherein the promise was that, they will charge us on a per transaction basis, right? So if I use that platform, I am actually charged on a per, deposit or a withdrawal that I make using that platform. And I can actually run my own bank. I mean, I can start my own bank in 7 minutes, provided I have the license. So that's the level of disruption that we're talking about, right? So if as advice coming from a fintech industry, one advice that you would like to give to the students and to fellow panelists, right? What would be that advice? How do we keep a watch out to make sure that we remain relevant for the coming decade, till the time we retire? Let me put it this way.
First of all, I'm not sure if I'm the panel, right? And it depends. I think every industry, every sector is very, very different. And I think we have established this in the last 45 minutes, right? Again, I think from a technology point of view, right, tech companies and SaaS companies, I think the only way to beat competition or the only way to be relevant is to be your own competition, right? The product that you have this quarter needs to be way better than the product you have next quarter. That's the only way you can make sure that nobody else can catch up. So that needs a lot of vision, that needs a lot of planning and all. And it's not an easy job. And that's why you see so much churn, right? But again, if you look at the company like HighRadius, we've been profitable for quite some time. We are a $1 billion valuation company. Very few people in India know about us, but almost everyone in the the CFO world in the market knows us. Gartner rates us right in that the corner of that magic quadrant, because that's because we've been investing in the places where we think it matters, right? I mean, again, I think I joined the company a few months back. It's only last week that I realized that someone has basically ranked us as number 2 SaaS company in India, just after Zoho and above Freshworks, right? Zoho and Freshworks almost everyone knows, right? But I don't know how many people outside KIIT would know HighRadius. But that's the company we've built, and that's the kind of company, that's the kind of product we've built, which makes us relevant to the audience that we serve. But we may not have made a lot of splash and billboarding elsewhere, because that's not where we think our marketing dollars should go. I think it's a longer answer to your question, but let me know.
No, thank you, Samar. I think the topic that we have over here, and it's something that is so specific. I mean, it's like it's so unique yet specific to everyone that it's difficult to have one pinpointed answer, right? And that's how I would also like to summarize. I think we are reaching towards the time of towards the end of this panel discussion, right? So first of all, thank you to all the panelists for patiently sharing your views across industries. To be honest, I learned more about marketing in the last 60 minutes, perhaps compared to what I've done in my career so far. And the topic is so diverse that I think even if we spend another hour, I think we'll never reach to a conclusion that what is it that we should do. So I hope the students benefited from the rich experience of the panelists that is here, and had a good takeaway. So I hand it over to Joydeep to conclude the session, and thank you once again. I learned a lot from this panel.
Thank you,
Thanks, Sandeep, and thanks all the panelists: Shrikant, Prasad, Somar, Raghu, Kiran. It was a wonderful session, and the kind of questions that students were asking again and again shows the kind of interest that you guys have generated. I'm sure the students have also learned a lot more in these 90 minutes than we have been teaching them over 1.5. So I don't know whether they'll pay the next installment fees or not. But jokes apart, it was very, very enriching, very, very enriching. And I was also happy to note that most of the panelists had a far more, what should I say, positive or a bent towards sales and revenue than towards marketing. So being, so I teach both sales and marketing. And it is always a challenge to convince students that sales is very, very important and can also be glamorous, even if a dirty job. So I think what you guys have told them in last 90 minutes will make them understand the importance of sales, not to undermine the role of marketing. But having said that, also the critical role that the revenue focus plays in an organization. Thank you all the panelists. Thank you so much. It was wonderful listening to all of you. With this, I'll end this session, and we hope to see all the students in the workshop. And of course, Somar and Prasad are staying with us. I also invite the other panelists to join us in any of the workshops if you wish to.
Yeah. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Somar.
Thank you, Jaideep. Thank you, everyone.
Raghu.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks.
खत्म हो गया क्या?